Good evening, Dota fans. Welcome back to the AEL Uni League Dota 2 competition here in Semester 1 of 2022. We've seen teams from all around Australia, all of our greatest tertiary educational facilities competing viciously throughout six weeks of play. Coming up on week 7, but not quite there yet. We still got to get through one more feature match, but still pretty deep into the season at this point. Every point matters. These series, these best of twos, are absolutely crucial for the teams who still have the ambition to make a deep playoff run here in Semester 1. And tonight, we are going to look at RMIT Black and UOA COME, C-O-M-E, the alternate Adelaide University team. Not 5 Adelaide this time. We've done enough of them this season. We're going to look at the other UOA squad tonight. Hopefully they can put on as good of a show as 5 Adelaide have in their matches this season. But RMIT Black, we know that they are always a capable and exciting squad coming out of that university. RMIT got a great esports program going on, well affiliated with Dota. Shout outs to Danog. And hopefully they can do this school proud here tonight because yeah, if they can get up here, this is really can't overstate the importance of this fixture to their hopes. We are going to have a really interesting final series with so many of the stalwart teams from previous years, previous seasons, having maybe dipped a bit in their power this season. Of course, we've seen some players graduate. It is a university league. And we've seen, you know, the shake-up in team chemistry kind of bring a bit of uncertainty back in the standings of the Uni League. So, you know, that uncertainty carries over to tonight. I don't really have a strong impression of which of these teams is going to have the upper hand in this new season. And I'm going to hopefully have a better idea after this first match. We all will. But we're about to get the draft started very soon. So no need to wait. No need to speculate. We're getting into the match. Ready to enjoy some Dota. So far, the draft on this patch, we've seen, I think the only consistent ban has been techies, which is funny enough, right? Like, the more things change, the more they stay the same. How many times can Ice Frog rework the same hero only to have it be a consistent first phase ban? But, you know, people are respecting, I think, the potential of the techies mid, or they just fear what they don't understand. And other than that, it's been real open slather. There's been heroes like, unfortunately banned this time, but Snapfire has been repeatedly seen getting through the pool and picked up in the first phase. We've seen Death Prophet get through repeatedly, and teams are starting to get a little bit more wise to just how consistently powerful the Death Prophet is. We're seeing her appear in more and more games, in more and more drafts, and as you can see here, first ban out of UOA. I like this stuff. I like to see these sorts of bans, because, you know, I've seen Death Prophet melt some towers. I like the hero. It's good that she's back in the meta, but now we're going to see something a little bit different from these teams. And these are drafters I haven't really seen draft before. Certainly Cookie from UOA, I don't remember seeing draft. So interested to see sort of what the approach is. Some of these teams just like to get a draft that they enjoy playing, that has their comfort heroes, or that fits a comfortable playstyle, just superior aggression or strong lanes. That's something that's encapsulated by the first pick out of RMIT Black after banning the Timbersaw. They do go ahead and pick up a melee strength hero, the Undying. That's very likely to be their safe laner, but Undying, of course, really, like DP, one of the poster children of this current patch meta. It is a little bit of a win lane, win game kind of patch. So no surprise to see Undying come back into popularity. You know, obviously Decay and Soul Rip is a great combo in the laning phase, both giving him the kind of zoning pressure with his auto attacks and just beefy body that an Ogre Magi might have, and as well as having the ability to actually save your carry directly, which is often lacking from those kinds of beefy lane presence supports if they do get an all-in on your core. But Undying can do it all, and then of course you have Tombstone in the team fights. Even in the late game, he doesn't quite fall off like he used to, now that every hero has more gold, but also access to, you know, strong Aghanims abilities, talents, shards. We've seen Undyings really scale much better than the hero used to be infamous for doing. But UOA, they bounce back with what might be 2 supports. You'd probably expect one of these heroes to be a core. Nowadays, it's not sure which one it's more likely to be in the core position, but Abaddon and Vengeful Spirit. They've banned out the Earth Spirit as well themselves, so respecting some specialty Earth Spirit play perhaps out of RMIT, and respecting the mobility that hero provides, because especially if these are your 2 supports, you're probably not getting a lot of roaming and ganking. Venge isn't quite as strong as that as she used to be. Just the short range of Magic Missile is kind of too stubby to initiate ganks on lanes. You need something like the Boulder roll from Earth Spirit to really get in there. And RMIT Black, they've potentially set themselves up with a really brutal offlane here if they do want to shift a different hero into the safe lane support role and play Undying Mars. I mean, Mars plus anything is usually pretty good, but depending on what you're up against, teams that, heroes that don't want to be pressured heavily in the early game have a really hard time against Mars and Undying. Because Mars and Undying are both good at consistent harassment, and normally what you want to do against that is, pick a team that can kind of all in on them. Just say, okay, if you're just going to sit here and spam Decay, if you're going to spam God's Rebuke every time there's a range creep and tag me for trying to get a last hit with your Mars, well, I'm just going to get a support with a stun and a carry with a nuke, and we're going to try and kill one of these heroes, or at least bring them low enough to force you out of the lane, right? We're not just going to sit here and take it. But against Mars and Undying, I think this is just too much beef for most lanes to handle. You just will not trade out early game either over the long term or the short term with the majority of lanes, and especially with DP banned and Timbersaw banned, you open the door for that kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. Maybe this is going to be a sustained based lane with an Abaddon support. He might be able to discourage that kind of aggression, given he is quite survivable himself, but it'll all depend. In the meantime, we've seen this middle banning phase, always so crucial, often targeting carries if they haven't been picked up by either team yet, and that's true here. RMIT Black, they choose to remove Medusa. He's probably been, I'd say, the most prominent carry of the season so far in AEL Uni League, and no surprise, right? Like, it's a hero that, if you want a win game kind of meta, Medusa is both the hero that can really cement your lead. If you win lanes, you kind of just adopt this strong farming posture where you control the majority of the map and sit back on your strength and just protect your Dusa, and she scales and gives you an insurance policy. But she's also one of the few heroes that's proven the ability to come back, just because her farming speed does scale so well even after the big changes to the neutrals in the last major patch where they're overhauled, and a lot of other heroes did not keep up in the same way. So, but Slark and Wraith King also removed, so survivable heroes that can avoid being bullied, I'll say, by heavy pressure in the lanes or ganking after the laning phase breaks up have been targeted by RMIT. Well, for UOA, they've banned out more mobile split farming carries, and carries that have a high burst of damage. So Tiny, AM, even Drow. Like, obviously Drow doesn't press a button to do a huge chunk of damage the way these two heroes do, but I'd wager that Drow's actual damage is simply so high that she qualifies as a burst hero in a lot of situations. And actually, Techies picked up by RMIT Black. It's the first time I think we've seen this hero in the whole season. It's been banned a lot, but I don't think it's ever been left through the pool and had anyone actually take up the offer. So Goblin Techies for RMIT Black. I wonder whether or not we will see that in a core role. I truly don't know. I haven't actually cast a game of this hero. I've only seen some of the highlights from pubs that you probably have if you're interested at home. And, the hero certainly does pack a punch now, even in as a more conventional nuker compared to its old kind of minesweeper space control role. And they've really doubled down on this whole aggression, map control, and ganking game plan, have RMIT now going for a puck. So it looks like we may actually have a support Techies after all here. Techies Mars offlane sounds pretty good. Against that, though, they are dealing with a Storm Spirit pick, so the puck probably grabbed in response to that, obviously offering a silence, decent lane against the Storm Spirit. If the Storm Spirit wants to move around early to try and start snowballing by picking up kills in the side lane, well, for one, these are not the easiest heroes to kill, but also your puck can easily respond with the teleport scroll and come in and turn things around with a quick burst of damage and disable. But you know who else can do that? Is UOA's, I'm going to assume it's their offlaner, the Sand King. It's another hero I feel like has had a very high win rate in this first semester of AEL Uni League. So we'll have to see whether or not that success holds up, but it is exciting to see this get grabbed. So we'll have to find out. But yeah, it's clear that these teams have been drafting for a whole season of Uni League play, right? The way that these drafts have evolved just looks a lot more practiced than they did at the start of the season when we started our casting in week 1 and week 2. There were teams just kind of ignoring patch heroes. There were drafts that didn't really fit together. But now the teams are used to the patch, and they're used to each other as well, right? Because a lot of these teams, or not all of them, some of these teams are a group of people who play together quite regularly and just happen to all qualify for the same university. But in the Uni League, you also do get teams that are kind of a little bit more of a special super group. They're getting together just for the Uni League season, united under the banner of their school. So the fact that these teams are able to put together a coherent draft, and I assume still meet with all their heroes, kind of their players' comfortable hero pools, that's exciting, because it means that we're not going to see perhaps the kind of stompy games we were at the start of the season. In fact, if you were watching earlier in the week, on Tuesday we cast a ripping series, which went down to 2 45+ minute games, really back and forth stuff, not a clear stomp in either case. So yeah, that's it's been a strong strong last couple of weeks of the season. I guess at least for the teams that are, we'll say, in finals contention, right? That we're starting to sort out the wheat from the chaff here, and we're going to do some more of that tonight. Now we're getting through the last phase of bans. It's going to be more carries, primarily. Juggernaut and Razor removed from RMIT Black, and Monkey King and Troll removed by UOA. And RMIT, they pick a Lifestealer. Absolutely perfect stuff, right? You've got Puck and Techies who can both jump in, and presumably Mars as well, once he buys that Blink Dagger that's so essential to the hero. So at least 3 different options for Lifestealer bombs. Obviously, it's not a huge part of the hero anymore. You do go for those Lifestealer saves more often than not, but you can even sort of pre-save a Techies if you want by jumping in and help to prevent some of the damage that Techies does to itself, or ameliorate some of the damage Techies does to itself by jumping in. And in general, Lifestealer just really fits the kind of aggressive game plan this team is going for, right? That global mobility, the ability to gank, but it has been answered, right? You pick a Lifestealer because of the early timings it offers, because of the magic immunity it offers, so you're not going to be controlled as easily by Vengeful, Storm, or Sand King. If they jump, you can have fast fingers on the Rage, but now you've got to deal with the last pick counter pick out of UOA. It's Cookie's Ursa, who obviously has a huge edge in the matchup with the Power of Fury swipes, just generally higher damage output overall until the very late game. So it's an interesting choice. Always with the Ursa lately, it's kind of fun to see whether they go for a more farm-heavy build and use the hero's early game prowess to kind of buy time to build a greedier item like a Battle Fury, or whether they feel like the Ursa has to try and go for a sort of early game snowballing build. Obviously against the Lifestealer, you might assume that you'd have an early game edge, but I feel like this team in general might need a bit more time. It depends probably how the other 2 lanes go, because the Storm Spirit and the Sand King, they're going to be the ones who are going to be making more of a difference to how aggressive they can be in the early game, I'm sure. With this Ursa's always pretty tanky nowadays with the Enrage. He's always obviously able to put out damage thanks to his skill set. But unless you have Sand King and Storm Spirit, and to some degree the Vengeful, setting up opportunities, like Eorb on the Storm balling in with an Aphotic Shield on, can easily snowball the Ursa, even if he has a bad lane to start with, which is always a nice thing for your draft when there's not huge pressure on your safe lane carry to stand up to what have been some pretty nasty off lanes in this meta. So both teams getting ready to start the match. As they do, of course, I'd like to quickly thank our sponsors. And we might even get a pause. So there we go. Quick time for a sponsor read as we get up these plays fixed. But of course, it's important to, mention the sponsors who've been able to make this season possible here in the AEL Uni League. So first of all, we have Predator. They are our gaming hardware partner, or gaming PC partner. And putting the power and precision of excellent gaming PCs in your hand to elevate the gaming experience. It's just, obviously you can't go into every fine detail, but the quality and performance that they have offered has been, attested to by players, by admins. I often talk with the other casters about our sponsors, and I don't, personally use Predator components, but some of my co-casters do, and they, it's not all talk. They really do offer a very high quality at a very competitive price. So make sure that if you're looking to build a new PC soon, you look for a Predator build, look for Predator parts, and support our sponsors. Now, of course, we've got some more sponsors, obviously. AOC providing our monitors. They're the global leader in monitor display technology. For more than 50 years, AOC have been delivering an exceptional viewing experience to all of their customers worldwide. There's millions and millions of them. Today, the company offers a wide selection of monitors, not only for gaming, but also for home and office use. So, AOC, not just the whole gaming brand that you see here, but also a fully fledged offering of monitor technology, and that leads to our last sponsor, Rig. You've got the visuals from AOC, you've got the core hardware from Predator, and Rig, What It Takes to Win, are our gaming headset partner here at the AEL Uni League. They deliver superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels of proficiency. So join the Rig team and enhance your gaming experience. And hopefully that's filled most of the time that these players need to reconnect. Does give us a little bit of time to go over some of the builds, though. Obviously, we've got VES1 here on the Sand King. We've got Eeyore mid on the Storm. We've got Abaddon support, definitely, bringing a lot of sentry, so looking to control the lane through those jungle camps, as you kind of have to as a defensively minded support. And Cookie, not the most defensively minded hero at all, already queuing up an Orb of Venom here on the Ursa, along with Kowalski on the Venge. Pretty standard stuff all around. We'll have to see whether or not the lane assignments are standard. I imagine it's probably going to be the Venge and the Ursa. I'd imagine you could easily put Venge and Sand King together. It's not like there's a wrong way to place these heroes, but I feel like the Ursa would rather have the additional control of a magic missile, because the you almost protect the Ursa more by enhancing the kill threat of the lane and giving him a chance to turn around than you do by giving him an aphotic shield. And over on the opposite side, we do see it's going to be a support techie, so not the mid techies that was so feared at the start of the season. We also have, Mars here building towards a Soul Ring. That's Fish. Bowl, of course, is the techie, so you can see even the synergy of the names for this team. Kofar on the Life Stealer already has his Orb of Venom, not waiting around like the Ursa is. And Wong Saroon on the Undying support. This is an interesting loadout. Lots of aggression here. Tangos and Windlace for controlling the trades in the lane. Got a Mango there for a little bit of extra decaying power. Hasn't skilled anything yet, but you imagine it's probably going to be, the usual early game stuff out of most of these heroes. Not a lot of variation in skill builds for these guys. Puck, though, we'll have to wait and see. There's been a few different Puck builds that have come and gone from prominence over the last couple of patches, and I haven't really seen as many Pucks over this season of Uni League as I did previously. So I'm interested to see what they favor. Do you get the Blink Dagger Rush? Do you see an Ola Doof? More of a farming strategy, let the Mars buy that first initiation item and let you have, nulls, Witchblade, so that you can provide a lot of damage. I do feel as though maybe after this Orb of Corrosion to control the laning phase, you might see Kofa go on the defensive somewhat, depending on how the other lanes go, because I think that Lifestealer does do a lot better, especially against an Ursa warrior who could easily shut you down by buying some sort of farming item. Just getting some level of farm speed up on the hero, so that if the early game aggression goes bad in the first fight or two, it doesn't start to really cascade failures through your game plan. You just see a bit of an extended pause, but yeah, I think I favor the Radiant draft slightly, although Techies is, of course, a bit of an X factor. But on the whole, I think that Undying and Mars have been insanely strong this patch, and I do feel like they match up pretty well against their opponents' heroes. It's going to take a bit of outplay from mid laner Eeyore, I think, and to a degree Ves1 on the Sand King, and that's what we've seen decide a lot of series over this season of Uni League. Just individually powerful mid players or carry players who've been able to win their lanes have just found themselves with a bit of a disproportionately large impact, right? If you're the mid laner and you get an early lead over your opponent, then you kind of have freedom to roam to other lanes and kind of tip those out of balance without fearing reprisal from your opposite number, like we saw in the series earlier this week. Even when, TK on the Dragon Knight seemed to be at a disadvantaged matchup against a Templar Assassin, he was able to get the edge in the laning early on with just dynamic use of skills and a good sort of read on how his opponent was playing the lane and when refraction was being used, and that somehow ended up tipping the scales of the entire game, it felt like, because the Dragon Knight had such a run of the map as TA tried to catch up in the neutrals. So I could easily see that sort of thing happening again, right? Storm Spirit definitely needs a few more items than Puck to be considered fully online, and it is a hero that likes to farm it up a bit in the newts. So if Sand King doesn't have a Blink Dagger and Eeyore doesn't feel comfortable balling into fights, at risk of running out of health or mana, that could be a huge window for a hero like an Aula's Puck. And even just, Fish along with Wong Saroon, between the Arena and the Tombstone, these sorts of combos are really unsurpassed by the Dire lineup, at least in the very early game. So we'll see who gets those good laning advantages, who has the early lead in last hits, who's able to take the first towers, and what they do with it, whether they return to farm or whether they try and force the issue. There is kind of a new flexibility in this patch, I think, even for lineups like this, that I feel like in a different patch would have been very aggressively slanted. At least the players are having fun, right? See, Kowalski, I don't know if we can get Kowalski. I don't know if I want to jump into this game and take over the role of Vengeful Spirit support, but I think Kowalski could probably come on board as the official sponsor reader of AEL. That's some great plugs. And you can see our players swear by the official sponsored hardware of the Uni League as well. It's really all love here between the sponsors, the players, the organizers. We're all just happy to be here playing Dota. Or, I guess, waiting to play some Dota. Here we go, okay. Counting down. In-game. In-game soon. This is like waiting for Christmas. Who's got better couriers? Let's have a look here. We got Dachshund Courier. Yeah, I like that. I like the little hat. Sausage dog with a sausage. Good, good, good. We've got an Elden Ring hand spider with an ultimate orb here. All right, all right. We've got a... Oh no. Okay. Don't want to close up the fountain. Storm Spirit having the same hand spider, different color scheme. A little less festive. I appreciate that. Subduedness. Okay, the Aghanim's donkey wins. The Aghanim's donkey is 6. So, Abaddon, Terra, the Abaddon, you're the provisional courier champion. But for now, back to the real competition. There's this 5-man smoke that's just expired. It hasn't broken yet. Fish is going to make it up onto the high ground here. He offers the high fire, but he can't even see the enemy yet. Now they're going to find Terra first, the Abaddon. Actually, they run into the whole team with the Nola's puck. He kind of went up a different way to the rest of his squad. And it proves to be disastrous. I don't know how you accidentally leave your mid laner behind, but he was just trying to get there a bit faster. Maybe assumed based on them finding nothing that were no heroes on the high ground. But they're going to try and get a reprisal here. They're working on the health bar of Eeyore, but with the Aphotic Shield coming through, they just lack a bit of power, unfortunately. Puck contributes some pretty good low cooldown nuking damage, and the rest of them, they just don't have the disables that you might want to secure things. They already used their blast off, they fired their best shot, and so, okay, they do manage to take down Kowalski thanks to Fish. So it is a trade, but not really an even one. You give up the first blood, and it's on your Puck. Now, it's not the worst case scenario. The first blood was not taken by the other mid laner, so Storm Spirit will not be donated like, you know, an instant bottle in an unfavorable or normally unfavorable matchup. But you did give a lot of money to the Sand King, so I don't know whether there's going to be fast boots. It looks like it might be a fast Soul Ring on top of braces and a quelling for Veswan or Vessi, and that's huge, right? I mentioned that the Sand King start's very important. If the Sand King gets a fast Blink Dagger, it gives this team so much more flexibility, right? Having multiple initiators is such a luxury. You're so much more able to keep the opposition on their toes. And so we'll see Wong Saroon making an effort to shut things down, wielding the power of the level 1 Undying and trying to set this lane back into balance after a little bit of a false start for his squad. Stabilizing things for RMIT. Up on the top lane here is Fish, working towards a Soul Ring of his own, and we'll be happy to bully the Ursa at least for a couple of levels until the sort of full impact of that Fury Swipes plus Overpower plus Earth Shock is felt. But we can see down the bottom, no waiting for this lane. Easy time for Kofa to farm up, while Saroon batters away at both die heroes. Out of mana now, but does have a Mango. No form of instant heal, though. Doesn't have the Fairy Fire. Not level 2 yet for the Soul Rip. Gets a little bit of extra strength to maybe survive off the Decay, and no auto attack. The short range of the Vengeful Spirit costs them a potential kill. It was very close there, but, you know, that's Undying. He's doing his job, using every resource available to help secure the lane for his carry. And both carries having a little bit of a hard time right now. But you can see Cookie's having a much harder one, right? Neither of them have a ton of creeps. But Lifesteal's got a couple of denies, and he certainly has more hit points. Cookie almost dying there to the combined pressures of Fish and Bowl. Probably the 1-2 punch of Blast Off into Mars combo there. But if you hit any more of those, you know, you really have to have your support scouting for those Blast Off casts. Anything more out of that skill, obviously it's a long cooldown, but in 10 seconds time, they are going to potentially have a setup to kill the enemy safe laner. Meantime, Eeyore has his bottle in the mid lane, and Nola also has his bottle. So, you know, the first blood obviously not slowing him down too much, and he has, as predicted, taken an early lead in the CS of about a creep wave, which is pretty good. I'm interested to see where this techies goes, right? Obviously, he's got to build some mana regen in the early game. You do want to be able to spam this sticky bomb, as I understand. Obviously, you know, the mines work a bit differently now. Oh, we're actually seeing some aggression onto Cookie. Bowl wasn't in range to land the blast off. Fish was looking for the stun, and you finally find the spear, but they don't have it. Oh, Cookie goes to the TP out, but Bowl finds it with the explosion. Great work there. Ursa tried. He knew how much danger he was in. Slipped into the trees. Just pressed the TP and prayed, but that's extra painful now because you've put the TP scroll on cooldown by not accepting your death. Terra was just never in range to cast a Photic Shield and save his carry there before they hunted him down. And that means that Ursa will have to make a walk of shame out of the base at level 2.5, 2 3/4. That's a very painful time to be, you know, allowing your opponents to open up a gap in the lane, and that's not even thinking about your opposite number across the map. Kofa still happily farming here, now substantially outstripping the other team's carry. Obviously, Sand King working his magic in the lane has a point in that caustic, as you know, love to do against a melee hero, and Kowalski has seemingly gotten control of the lane away from Wong Saroon. Obviously, you know, the Undying not able to quite keep up against 2 heroes worth of spells when the Lifestealer can at best contribute, you know, a straight auto attack. But he has certainly done enough to hold the lane even for farming. And now the other 2 lanes are going much better as Enola makes a play on Eeyore under the tower. Eeyore cleverly jukes back into the trees. He has a salve as well, so he's probably completely fine, especially with Terra teleporting in. But Terra teleporting away from top lane is just a green light to Fish. He has a soul ring, so this situation is misleading. Can he line up a spear on Cookie? Cookie, of course, running straight down the middle of the lane, making sure there's no vector where he can be pinned to a tree by that spear of Mars, and Fish has to give up the chase. Bol not in range to follow up. But back in the mid lane, the Abaddon can't keep all the cores safe, and as Eeyore goes for a water rune a little bit greedily to try and stay in the lane, Enola pounces. Doesn't even have vision on that side of the lane, but the Radiant Ward at bottom that is not found by this Dire Sentry Obs combo is enough to give him the read on where the Storm was going to be, or at least where the rune was going to be, and the fact that the Storm decided to chance his luck, like the Ursa gambling in the top lane, did not work out. So now Fish just kind of has this run of the lane. I imagine he's shipping himself out some phase boots. It would be interesting to see him skip those, but I feel like against the Ursa in the lane, you really do want that extra burst of movement speed, and I'm sure the armor doesn't hurt either. But the Techies has left the lane, roaming around a little bit. You can see all their lanes are going well, so at this point there is a lot of freedom to make some plays, and it would be Bol on the Techies, who is the hero to make them on this team. I don't think there's much point in roaming the Undying. But he seems content to head back to the top lane, working on his Soul Ring now, just really trying to keep that mana up so that you can spam out the Sticky Bomb. And I wondered whether this combo might be, responsible for making the lane hard for Cookie. By going the other skill first, it seems like we've kind of waited until after, actually, Enola getting another solo kill on Eeyore, finding him in his own easy camp, so things getting bad and worse for this Storm Spirit. Everywhere he turns for succor, he finds a pucker instead. And the puck... I won't take that rhyming scheme any further. The Puck's certainly laying in hard in this lane, not allowing any sort of advantage to be claimed, no trades to be made. If you try and farm the neutrals, if you try and pick up a rune, I won't just take the creeps in the lane, I will come and take your head as well. And I imagine that now with this lead established, we'll start to see the Puck rotate around and enforce his will on those other lanes like we speculated on in that lengthy pause. Everything otherwise just kind of going as normal. There's not a lot of flexibility to move around out of this Dire team, and it is something that I've seen undo drafts in this season of AEL Uni League. It's not that you always have to have a dedicated roaming hero anymore. We're obviously long past that meta, but just having heroes that are good at making a TP rotation under pressure, having laners that can survive feasibly without their support for a minute or so, or without, completely conceding the lane. As we see, Vez1 goes down, caught in the trees. I think he was trying to TP out, but the Puck, it's that rotation we talked about, snatches up a haste rune, has level 7 now, didn't actually use the Dream Coil, so has that rotation as well, and Cookie dies at the top lane, just gets jumped on. His support leaves for a moment to, I suppose, go and stack, maybe to help in mid or something. Now, Terra does come back to the lane and mop up Bol, and Fish is very low as well. Working on him with the Curse of Avernus, he has 18 1-stacks, so no shortage of mana. Can Fish slip out of here? He can push the Abaddon away. He's going to try and trade it out, but he probably should not. Yeah, he was wondering if maybe he could Soul Ring, set up a spear. Fish really testing his limits here against Hera. Doesn't want to die to a Dream Coil, and yeah, I don't know whether he maybe could have gotten out or not, but Eeyore just balls in and cleans him up. So ending that killing spree with Eeyore kind of makes that whirlwind last couple of minutes almost okay for the Dire, especially if they get this kill on. Kofa gets the rage off just in time. Level 1 Burrow Strike is quite a short stun. I think even a level 2 Burrow Strike with the extra damage and stun, he would have been toast. But that point in Caustic Finale not helping out quite as much there, and the rage, that's why you pick this hero. He's able to survive. That's kind of what I was talking about, right? You just need a hero who has the survival mechanisms to last in the lane without their support if you're going to pull that support away, whether for emergency triage or to set up a gank of your own. And so far, the map movements have largely favored RMIT Black, but by giving up a couple of cheap and valuable kills, to key heroes like the Storm Spirit there, kind of sours a little bit. They do still have a gold lead. Coming up on the 8-minute mark, it's getting close to 2,000, or between 1 and 2,000. You see that the Sticky Bomb not landing on Cookie. It has to land sort of within a light strike array or so of the target to acquire the hero. Then you'll see the Sticky Bomb chase them down, and it is an insane amount of slow. Not just the damage, it is quite good spammable damage, it's good for clearing creeps and such, but the slow it applies is very potent for running heroes down, and I imagine that's what they're hoping can be used to set up the Mars combo. Now the Puck's starting to rotate again. I don't know if he has a bottle. He doesn't. But he is building towards a Witchblade first. So this Mars start has allowed a greedier build out of Enola on the Puck. Lands the Dream Coil on the Ursa. They're coming in. This Ursa has no enrage. He's level 5. This is surely a free Mars combo if they want it. They're trying to hold the Arena of Mars. Oh, actually, doesn't have the spear ready. But they finish him off. Yeah, there's just no way Cookie can slip out there. There's no help with forthcoming from the Storm. Eeyore picked up a DD room, but just... It would have been too much mana, or it would have been too big of a commitment with the TP to try and move over there. He might make the play on Enola instead. Enola just not respecting the DD. Oh, he had the orb out. He was ready as he could be. Kind of realized just in time how much danger he was in and gave himself an out. I won't say that was 100% calculated, but he turned out to have just enough life to survive. And now, Bol kind of trapped. This could be a cheap kill. He's locked down by the Curse of Averna. Storm Spirit coming in as well. Can't get the deny off. Great play. I mean, I don't think that denies you anymore anyway. Yeah, it's non-lethal damage to techies, so you can no longer deny that kill with the explosion. But Eeyore, greedy as a Storm Spirit player, should be arguably, comes in to take that kill away even from his own safe laner. Cookie, still not level 6 after sharing the XP there, but at least he has some phase boots. So he's trying to play catch-up. Any thoughts of a greedy Ursa build are probably gone now. He's just building into the Morbid Mask. Maybe he'll try for recovery. They do pick off Wong Saroon here with a quick burst of spells. That was the epicenter used by Ves1. First time we've seen that for the game. But it wasn't on Kofa. So this Lifestealer continues to have a pretty free time in the lane. He's rocking the lane-dominating combo of Orb of Corrosion and Phase. Fearless, as you can see, fighting two heroes over the neutrals. Kowalski has to stun there because the Burrow Strike got missed by Ves1. That could have turned bad. And Kofa really exploiting both stuns being on cooldown. He's going to go for the kill here. He arguably could have chased with the Rage, but he respects the damage out of Ves1. He rages that Magic Missile as he had to. Yeah, just playing for time, really. Once this armlet, I thought the Lifestealer might be slightly more wealthy, but he doesn't seem to have an item on the courier ready, so... Looking towards the puck here, who has Dream Coil up again, and a bottle, and almost has a Witchblade. I imagine he's going to push this wave into tower. He can easily get a bottle charge off after the invis. He'll be able to be at full mana. He's level 10, full mana, purchases Chainmail. He's just going to go on the Storm, actually. Does he want to commit a drink? No, he's just harassing Eeyore. Just trying to draw some attention. Sees Terra, so actually had vision of the Abaddon already thanks to a really nice high ground obs here that's managed to live the entire natural life of a ward without being cleared up by the supports. This Fish takes the top tier 1. So things getting really iffy on the top side of the map for the Dire for AUE. They've lost mid and top, and now they're under a ton of pressure. They really don't want to give up this mid tower as well. They go onto the puck, but the ball in from Eeyore is dodged by the phase shift, and then the Waning Rift to cancel the phase shift allows no opportunity for Eeyore to follow up with a pull, and thus no way to connect with the stun or even the swap. Even the swap from VS has a slight cast animation. And so, I mean, this is why you counterpicked Storm Spirit with Puck. They're just confident they can avoid the initiation. And in the meantime, Enola does not give me a rest on the mic. Immediately just TP scrolls to bottom, not to base, and drops that Dream Coil out of an Invis rune, it looks like, on the Sand King. Happy to take that kill. This is when you're ahead. You know, you can just take, you know, a kill on a secondary call like the Sand King. Yeah, 3 heroes shared it. Yeah, it probably won't set up a tower, but it was free. It does slow down that important Blink Dagger. And the best that AUE can manage right now is getting a 4-man kill on the techies in their jungle again, where he just sort of continues to monitor the progress of any catch-up stacks that might be here to help Eeyore or Cookie manage their game after, you know, what's been a pretty tough laning phase. We do see the Battle Fury queued up, so Cookie, we've had the reveal. He is, for now, aiming for that greedy build, which at this point will be a catch-up build. So whatever their original plans in terms of the tempo for their team, the timings they had imagined, it looks like Adelaide Uni Esports are trying to play from behind now, which, I don't know, unfortunately this lineup out of RMIT Black is very well poised to take the aggressive posture on the map, and with this Blink Dagger on Mars, this could be a huge fight. They miss the Magic Missile on the puck, it's another great phase shift, and immediately everything goes wrong. Kowalski and Eeyore are destroyed immediately in the round of spells out of Fish. Enola also contributing, but didn't have to burn the Dream Coil or even the Bottle DD there. It was just the combined nukes of the different heroes. That was as good a Mars Blink reveal as you could possibly hope for, and to pile on something for those efficiency monsters out there, Fish wastes 0 seconds TPing to the top lane to pick up even more farm. Not wandering around in the excitement of that team fight. His team, he already knows, are capable. They've got the wards on the high ground. They've got the pressure on the tier 2 mid. They've got the control of the enemy jungle. Just with the 3 heroes they have there, he's going to go back to farming. This is a real machine right now for an RMIT Black squad. Immediately, suddenly appearing head and shoulders above their opponents after, you know, granted they had the edge in the laning phase, but it wasn't as disastrous as some we've seen this season. And there is still time to respond as AUE are attempting to here with this smoke. It's only on the 2 supports though. So they're kind of trying to bait a gank onto Eeyore. They get the swap. They find Enola, but Enola again, phase shift into silence. But this time, Vest1 is there and Eeyore is there. He can't dodge everything. And now they're into play. There was a, a dominating streak ended, but they want more. They're going to find at least the techies. So that's going to be both supports and the puck mopped up. A great response. Really everything you could hope for. I don't know if that was their own blink reveal. I think this one might have had that delivered after getting the kill gold on the puck. But that's just even more impressive they were able to pull that off. Really, really great understanding of where their opponents would be. Like, okay, if I were the RMIT team and I'd just gotten all those kills in those towers, this is what I'd be playing for. I'd be trying to snowball even harder. And now they're going to take even more. It looks like Eeyore trying to set up on Kofa, but he has that armlet ready. They realize, I think, he's a tougher target than he looks. They can't bring down this lifestealer right now, especially when he hops inside that beefy undying zombie. Flesh golem form, walking down his opposite number support. Terror explodes. That is an old school lifestealer bomb there out of Kofa, and an old school lifestealer double with the armlet build, winding back the clock. But some things are timeless. And yeah, unfortunately, after a brief swing of momentum back, it turns out to just be a kind of pendulum effect for the AUE squad. They give up 4 kills of their own. They give up their own mid laner, who, of course, is still struggling to put together. His first big item is going to be BKB. I'm not saying it's bad on Storm, but that is, I think any Storm Spirit player out there will tell you that is a defeat posture. That's a real concession you've made. But I respect that you recognize that the game is bad. Like, sometimes there's a temptation to just hope things will get better by themselves and you don't have to build that recovery item. You don't have to build that kind of defensive tool that's going to limit your scaling at least through the mid game, but probably affect your gold for the rest of the game relative to, say, what you might go in after a better start. But you're not going to make any money and you're not going to win the game for your team by getting chain stunned every fight in a Mars arena. So does what he has to, does Eeyore, and queues up that whole BKB. For now, though, still playing without the tool and going to go for some cheap kills on supports, but the silence from the techies is going to extend things and Enola is going to arrive. It's looking like it's going wrong again. They lock down the Storm with the Dream Coil and he can do nothing. The lengthy disarm from the taser, the silence from the explosion, even the silence from the puck, the beautiful orb. Scouts with the Sand King was trying to make a turnaround play. He had the Blink Dagger in the epicenter. He was ready to be the hero, but there's only one hero right now and he lives on the opposite team. It's Enola on the puck, really stamping his sigil on this game. 4-2-8, but he's been so high impact in these fights, and now that he's acquired a Blink Dagger after that Witchblade, he's able to have everything. The stats, the mobility, the initiation potential. He's looking great right now. Kofa looking to queue up a Desolator here, so that's going to really enhance their pressure on this game, right? We still see some towers standing, even a tier 1 at bottom lane, despite having had pretty much one-way traffic apart from that one lost team fight. RMIT Black, soon they will have much greater ability to take objectives as a reward for these teamfight wins. Although, teamfight lost maybe? No, here's the Mars arriving immediately. All these Blink Daggers, all this mobility, and even the chance for Kofa to hop inside Bol's techies and delay any kill happening. Finally, Bol goes down. Wongsurun also picked off by the Storm Spirit. Eeyore still with a little bit of mana to play with here. We've seen some armor toggles. It's going to be a defensive arena, so yeah, that... Ultimately, the fact that this teamfight is happening so deep on the dire side of the map does catch up with RMIT Black, but at least they recognize it. Nice play, good decision-making by Fish, doesn't hesitate, deploys the Arena of Blood, and gets that Lifestealer out of there. Nice armlet toggling by Kofa as well, and good use of the Infest Bomb, and so they are able to at least avoid the kind of turnaround kills that their opposite numbers just gave up a few minutes ago in the mid lane. And that's just, the advantage you get by being a little bit of gold ahead and having this good itemization, good team drafting as well. Looks like a little bit of a lull. There's just not an obvious objective right now. I think RMIT Black are considering that they want Roshan before they go for these tier 2s, or at the very least, Kofa wants to finish up this Desolator, which he has the money to do. He does construct it. No real need to hold buyback when you're this far ahead and you have all of your towers still available. And getting this Desolator now is such a huge tempo swing. Obviously, with the changes to the item, you do want to acquire it earlier than later, not just because of how well it synergizes when you're ahead early and gives you, like, superlative tower-taking ability compared to any other item, but now that you have to build up the charges for it upon kill, you really don't want to be sort of delaying your Desolator for other items and picking up the Desolator only to find that it's lost in its effectiveness after the early game ends, and you now don't have the ability to even charge it fully anymore because kills are harder to come by. So I really respect this decision-making from Kofa, the calculated aggression out of RMIT Black that has kind of defined this game so far. Meanwhile, we see calculated cowardice out of their opponents. I say that with no shade at all. Eeyore just knows he's behind. BKB still 1,200 gold away, and even then, this is not really a Storm Spirit popping off kind of game, but maybe at least it'll be a Storm Spirit contributing kind of game. Terra is currently contributing by tanking a Dream Coil gank. Level 10 Abaddon, nothing to do about that. Not to mention the remaining heroes for RMIT Black that were just kind of standing around behind, hoping that the rest of his team would try and bail him out. But no, they understand the job of a support in this case is to die while his Storm Spirit taps away at the tier 1 tower, and then Eeyore makes himself scarce in a real hurry. I mean, on the one hand, they're avoiding giving up more than they have to, at least for now, but they're not getting a lot as a result. They're just not being allowed much of the map. You can see how fast these RMIT Black players are to respond, to utilize that mobility that's allowed them to have control of the initiation and even to escape the team fights when they have gone wrong. Now they're using that mobility to really close off any sort of cheap farm that might be picked up by some opportunistic dire heroes, and even more permanently remove map control in the form of tier 2 towers, as Kofa is wielding that Desolator. No kill charges on it yet, but it's racking up some notches from buildings, and it's about to put the big boss neutral creep. There's a notch there as well. It picks up a DD rune, and into the pit we go. There's going to be a very fast Roche. I think they probably expect this is going to happen, if not now, then soon, but they're really in no position to respond. AUE. Apart from the Blink Dagger on Vest 1, they have no way to get into the pit. They certainly don't have good vision, as you can see. Real control coming out as Bol. Not only now able to wield the Prox Mines, now that we've, obviously it's Techie's ultimate now. It takes a little bit of time for those to re-emerge, but he's back to playing Minesweeper, but also playing Ward Sweeper on top of it, and that vision control lets you make plays like that. They know exactly where Vest 1 is, they deploy all of their blinking heroes on top of him. There's absolutely no chance of escape, even with a Blink Dagger of his own, and with a defensive support like Abaddon in the vicinity. All that Terra can do is meditate on his own name and hide deep in those trees. But the puck's gone bottom. They can see that on the creep wave. Actually, was that a Dream Coil? Very interesting. I think Enola may be missing a Dream Coil there. Oh no, he killed the Sand King top. So he must have gone for a Dream Coil play on a hero who just dodged it. And now they're going to try and take advantage of seeing the puck TP and ult wasted by fighting top lane. They almost kill Kofa's Lifestealer, but it unfortunately just gives him time to toggle the armlet. They don't quite have the burst, and instead it all goes wrong. That's a real game ender of a fight there. 4 heroes for nothing. Only the Sand King escapes. They didn't even really come that close to killing the Lifestealer, I'm sure he'd say. But, that's the power of Armlet Lifestealer. You just have multiple tools for surviving. Actually, we're going to see the hero play. The epicenter he was denied before. Fish even blinked forward. He knows that Vest 1's been looking for this play all game. He gets the godlike spree of Kofa. Huge individual plays from the Sand King. It's not going to turn around the game by itself, especially as they catch him with the Sentry Ward, but there's not enough health on this puck. You have to really be careful you don't get Burrow Strike blinked, but now a blink stun out of Fish. They're going to have the damage just to kill him. They don't give up the puck kill, so a little bit of a showdown of egos there more than anything else there. Neither team willing to concede and back off from that plate, even with the risk of death. But, I mean, the Radiant, RMIT, they've just set themselves up better. They have the collateral right now. They even have an Essence Ring, which Puck actually rejects. You know you're having a good Puck game when you're happy throwing that away and holding onto your Grove Bow. And it's going to go to a lucky support, I'd imagine, most likely. But yeah, apart from giving up that killing spree on the Lifestealer to a good bit of individual Sand King play, it really has been one-way traffic. I'm sure if we check the graphs, yeah, it's pretty brutal right now. And if we check the net worth chart, yeah, Sand King, obviously, after getting that huge pot of gold, has slightly eclipsed Mars, and even now is shunted back down into 4th place. So top 3 net worths occupied by the Radiant cause. They pretty inarguably won all 3 lanes, and even though it hasn't been as complete a stomp as you might see elsewhere, there has been some back and forth. It's 30-19. Strategically, I don't feel like it's ever looked good for UAE, and that's because they picked these heroes that really do require momentum out of the laning phase. And as you can see, Eeyore cowering in the trees with his most significant item, a BKB, and a pile of stats besides on a Storm Spirit. This is not This is not momentum. This is not what a Storm Spirit with momentum looks like. He's been balling around the map as best he can. He's picked up some good kills with it. Definitely trying to play in that opportunistic style that you like to see. But there just haven't been a lot of opportunities, which we, kind of identified in the draft, right? These heroes are quite tanky. You've seen Enola be very fast with his fingers. Kofa great on the armlet toggling. And even the supports have had very good positioning to avoid being caught out and punished more than maybe once or twice in this whole game. So, RMIT Black looking the goods here in game 1. They feel this game, the importance of this game, as seriously as I did. It's great to see them playing at such a high level. Now just kind of cementing their control of the map. Smoke out of the base by the die, immediately runs into techies. They will realize he's there. He was positioned in the tree, so maybe even try and get away with that one without dying. But against the Storm Spirit, the trees are not really cover. And Eeyore immediately assesses what's happened and finds the support, but it is ultimately just a support. I mean, 8k down at 24 minutes, you're going to get a chunk of gold for that. Spread amongst all your teams, so really maximizing the return. But that is ultimately a win for the techies, right? You've denied that smoke play, and now you can see what your team get going back the other way. They catch the Sand King. Eeyore turns to fight, though. Lands the pull. Gets the kill. Oh, the Kowalski dies to Kofa. This lifesteal is going berserk. Now he has some charges on that Desolator, and you can see the kind of damage it does. I talked about the matchup with Ursa favorably for Ursa Warrior, but that does not account for a game where the lifestealer is this far ahead and has all fighting items, and the Ursa's only real item of note is a Battle Fury, although Cookie has been making good use of his time to farm. He's caught up to his own Sand King. He's hanging in there. 3,000 gold behind the enemy mid and carry, but in striking distance still at least, and with that BKB, that's going to be a big power spike for them. Ideally, you'd have a mobility spell as well, but they do have the swap, they do have other stuns, they can set things up, and they're going to try again immediately, even before this BKB is ready on the Ursa. So they understand this is their timing, I suppose. They're just ready to try and fight. Huck's building up a Lincoln Sphere, so this is probably a good window, especially if you want to try and kill Enola, who has been a massive threat to you. It's going to be a lot harder in a minute or so, but he is playing very cagily, understanding his vulnerability. They see Vez1, though. Everyone's building a BKB right now. Puck, though, maybe doesn't want to overcommit onto a Sand King, slippery kind of hero, and they don't know exactly where his help is. There aren't any Radiant Wards currently on the top side. They did have great control of the vision earlier, but obviously, it's hard to keep wards up across the whole map for the whole game. Some would say impossible. Storm's going to show on top, and now they're going to have a better idea. They're going to maybe ping the mid. They can see this one, Sandstorm. He's a little bit off to the side in the trees, but Enola, like the Storm Spirit, trees are no obstacle to him. He phases through, finds the Sand King, and with that Shard Spear from the Mars, they easily have the damage to bring down the SK. So after hunting him for a full minute, you can see these teams, they're on the level. They're trying to play around each other's vision. They're trying to be as careful as they can, but ultimately you have to go for creeps as a core. And as soon as you do, RMIT Black pounce with 5 heroes. They get the kill of Terra eventually as well, just not being afraid of him or the high ground. Eeyore sticks around the top lane a little bit longer to finish off the tower. And unfortunately, his Rax is now under threat. He's still not TPing back. Are they just going to give this one up? Magic Missile does not phase Kofa, forces out his Rage cooldown, but he gets that mid-melee barracks and he pulls out. As Vez1 buys back, Eeyle's going to try and look for a catch to make good out of that buyback, but he gets caught himself, forced to BKB by the Puck with the Dream Coil. Fortunately, Puck does not have the ability to shut that down anymore as early in the game, and unfortunately, Enola, I imagine that he thought that would catch a couple more heroes, but only catching the Storm, who I think is the only hero to actually okay, there's a BKB out on the Ursa as well, freshly purchased. But he caught a BKB hero and nothing else, and the rest of his team immediately kind of said, you're on your own, buddy. So Enola, bit of a feed, wasn't a spree this time, but that just goes to show how ready RMIT Black are to win the game. Like, good play, good solid play out of AUE, no slouches at all. They are taking everything allowed to them right now. We see Vez1 has the Shard up on Sand King, becoming a more and more popular item on the hero, just for the farming capacity and the amount of damage it outputs in long team fights. And this is a team that loves long team fights, right? They're all kind of tanky, mobile, independent cores who do a lot of damage consistently over time. You can see, even as Kowalski dies to Kofa, their Storm Spirit dies back in. Eeyore is trying to make some plays here. They're trying to spread the Radiant apart and pick off lone targets. Cookie's using that BKB. Saroon gets a huge heal off that Soul Rip, but it's not huge enough. There is a Tombstone on the high ground, though, and that might spell the death of a lot of dire heroes here if they aren't careful. They're trying to smuggle the Ursa back to safety. He gets far enough. Disables out of Eeyore and Vez1. Buy him time. They don't quite get the kill on Bol. He eventually goes down to the Abaddon, who's going to get killed by zombies and bombs on the backline, and Kofa's blinking in. He wants more. Eeyore has a little bit of mana, probably enough to make it back to base, but they They do see sense. They give up on the Storm kill. Cookie, though, this fight's continuing. Puck is back in. Enola has the Dream Coil up again. And this time he finds the Ursa. Even with that BKB, it's of no use to him. The damage adds up by itself with the Lifestealer and the Mars there. But Kofa, by committing to that kill, does stick around long enough that Eeyore is able to refill his mana, get his BKB off cooldown, and go back in to pick up another streak. Mega kill ended. Crazy trades going on right now. It is a 13,000 gold lead to the Dire, but if you look carefully, that was a win for... Actually, oh, that was a dieback from the Ursa. Okay, so maybe not a win ultimately. It was close though, right? For how far they are behind, it's been some impressive individual play and nice team fighting decisions, I feel like, overall out of AUE. And I feel like even that dieback was a little bit intentional. The Ursa is committed to farming right now. He's not as strong as he could be, but he also has a better ability to recover and to make gold outside of team fights compared to really any of his team. They're giving him the space to do that. Whereas they really need this Storm Spirit to be picking up his gold from those kinds of mega kill streaks. The injection of gold into this hero means more than it does to anyone else on the map. And Eeyore right now, he's definitely playing in a way that justifies his team emphasizing him and making sacrifices for him. He's been doing great in these last couple of fights after he's, sort of gotten to his recovery items. And now with that Aghanims, his impact is even more keenly felt. I couldn't see if he had it in that team fight, but it certainly seemed like he was able to turn things around very powerfully with that initiation, or counter initiation, balling in on the steps. Both teams, with their tankiness and with their AoE disables, able to bait each other into some disastrous teamfight situations here over the course of the game so far. But we're kind of ready for another wave of items to come out of RMIT Black here, and as they do still hold a considerable net worth lead across all core positions relative to their opposite numbers, I have to imagine that might be, this is going to be your best chance to end the game. You've got the E-Blade up on the techies now. Wong Saroon building towards that upgrade for the medallion, the Solar Crest, to help make the Lifestealer even more unkillable, one would imagine. Really help him while he's disabled, try and tank him up a bit more, even beyond the ability to heal him with a Soul Rip. And interestingly enough, Kofa, recognizing what his team needs in this game, what he needs to try and run down heroes individually, he's brought Blink Dagger into Scythe. So you might not normally expect Eeyore, a BKB carrying Storm Spirit, to be a soloable target for a Lifestealer, even a farmed Lifestealer, but Kofa is itemizing with this game in mind. That being said, he is a little bit out on his own here. I don't think they're looking to gank him, but if S1, if they kind of sniff out or scan out that there's a lonely Lifestealer here, he can easily die to the whole team now. Like, there's plenty of damage out of all these heroes. Cookie with the Mindbreaker could be an important choice. Just that silence on hit might be enough to prevent the use of a defensive phase shift or an Enrage, right? If you're already empowered on the Ursa and you blink next to someone with auto attack enabled, there is realistically not time with human reactions to hit a defensive button, even if it doesn't have a cast point. So that could be their in for some of these kills that they've struggled to take cleanly so far. And they have the perfect opportunity to test their theory if they want to go for it, because they have sussed out that the Radiant are doing Roshan. RMIT Black looking for their second Aegis of the game. The Roshan has some shards here. Might go to that Lifestealer. I wouldn't mind getting an open wounds scan follow up on the Hex. And they bail immediately. They knew just as much as the Dire did what the situation was. Eeyore balls in and Electric Vortexes only the Roshan. So both teams now just posturing outside the pit. Really nice Dream Coil. Catches those heroes without BKBs, which at this point is just the supports. But they'd be happy to take the supports. There's one forced to pop his BKB. Does mean he gets a great epicenter off here. It's going to cost Kofa his life. That's a huge opening kill. Fish as well can't do anything against the BKB cause they overextended themselves after that initial Dream Coil. Enola just struggling to have an impact here as the Puck. And what a difference the changes to Puck's Aghanims makes, right? When Puck had the ability to penetrate BKB with Dream Coil before level 25, that would have been a completely different team fight. But as it is, he's kind of forced to stop participating in the fight after that opening salvo, because by getting it and forcing out those BKBs, he takes so much damage and he has so little to contribute, and now he's forced to run Eeyore out of mana and just run himself well away from the fighting. They are buying time, but you would have to buy a lot of time to prevent an Ursa warrior of all heroes from finishing off this Roche. And now we can see Cookie able to comfortably go back in. They are trying to make them pay in some degree. Can Enola get the kill? He does finish off S1. Eeyore, if he clicked on that Storm Spirit's mana, he might almost have turned around. But Eeyore knows he doesn't have much time. Wong Saroon walking near the pit, hoping to scout with the Tombstone to see if they maybe have time to intervene in the Aegis, but they were just a little bit too slow. They have finished off the mighty Roshan, and Cookie is now armed with that second life. Also has the shard once he has time to unbackpack it. having a little bit of trouble finishing off Bol, who, of course, is just playing funny games with that E-Blade. Actually buys time for Ronaldo to come back in on this slippery puck and finish off Terra on the Abaddon. These are all small exchanges. It's Cookie who matters. He has the extra life up now on the Aegis, and I must say, there's been a great bit of playing from behind out of the Dire. They do give up a kill on Kowalski, but it's always these supports that are dying to Kofa. I feel like even with this Blink and this side, these last couple of items haven't made the impact you would like on this lifestealer. He had such a lead, and he's been able to maintain that net worth lead for the most part. This might be their chance. He's gonna have the scythe off cooldown in just a second, and yeah, wise decision by Cookie to not farm that one more creep wave, even right outside his own base. He understands. Can easily die. They're maybe trying to take advantage of the fact that Dream Coil is on cooldown, and I'm sure that AUE are aware of that, so maybe that lulls them to a false sense of security, but they've seen the Lifestealer Hex, and they felt its touch in that last fight, so they've immediately updated their mental map of where is safe to walk and where isn't, and the fact that the Puck's ultimate's no longer available, not a game changer anymore at this point. Although, having the ultimate off cooldown, back to being much more of a game changer as Puck finally achieves that level 25 talent. Of course, slams the Dream Coil Pierce's Magic Immunity button, and all of those BKBs that have really been helping to keep AUE in the game. Not so important now. Eeyore finds that out. Oh, that's a great Spear of Mars. Catches him in the tree. I think was he teleporting already? Or has he just started the... No, he may have been teleporting already, but whatever he was trying to do, forced to spend all his mana balling up the tree line to get away, and the Ursa Warrior comes in to try and assist, gives up his life immediately, just walks into the trees on top of Kofa, and it's Kofa who has the fast fingers, hexes him down, the spear out of nowhere as he spawns. He's holding BKB though, Cookie. He understands he can get out so long as he holds that button. They're not going to burst him down 100-0 a second time, especially because Enola has kind of hedged his bets and gone deeper, looking for easier prey, and finds it. First Kowalski, but now in the arena, they're going to have a really great chance of killing Vest. Finish him off with a Soul Rip. Way too many Dire creep units around. A little bit of traders to the team there, providing the extra nuke power they needed to bring down the Sand King and forces out immediate buyback. So this Sand King, I mean, he has the items that he needs. Black King Bar and Blink Dagger are the minimum requirements for this game. Anything gets after this point is a little bit of gravy, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind having an extra damage item, having that Kaya out on him. His magic damage has really been instrumental in turning around some of these fights, but there, he was just controlled and brought down. You can see, especially as these BKBs start to wane, more instant disables come out of their opponents. And sort of just the RNG of whether or not you get a good fight or not. You know, your Ursa Warrior walks into their Lifestealer and gets hexed right on top of Kofa, their primary damage output. You just can't get a good fight every time. And when it's a bad fight, we can see a lot being given up by AUE. They're trying to deny some of that as Storm Spirit balls out of base, but some respect from RMIT Black. They're not going to give anything up. They're not allowing another foot in the door. They will not allow the window of potential comeback to be opened even a crack wider. They would rather fall back. And wisely so. Mars has that Assault Cuirass now, has delayed his own BKB. Didn't really need it. We haven't really felt that he's needed it, but I'm sure he'll appreciate having it, especially if he can catch his Storm Spirit. This is a potentially huge play, but there's not really a lot of follow-up disables around. Really need to have the Puck in the vicinity. Although, now that are all stacking up, gets a 3-man Dream Coil. Could have maybe waited a second and got a 5-mana, but we'll see if this is good enough. BKBs are forced out. This one gets that Epicenter off. Obviously, the Dream Coil can't prevent that, even with the talent, and that Epicenter is going to clear everyone out of the Mars arena. Fish can't even fight in his own spell until he has this BKB ready. They force a buyback out of the Undying, but it looks like the Radiant really want to make a play here. Bol on the Techies is in a dangerous position. He's trying to utilize his ultimate, has 3 full charges of Prox Mines, almost dies just placing 1 down, but that 1 placement does lead to a kill onto Kowalski, and Vest 1 gets picked off, finished off deep in the base by the Puck. We'll see if the Puck's overextended, but Eeyore doesn't have the mana, gets 1 spell off on him, but the Phase Shift gets the Puck away, and he's forced to give up on the kill. This has left Cookie isolated. The Storm Spirit's trying to regen in the fountain, bottling up as fast as he can. Can they bring down Cookie on the Ursa? This would be a massive kill, massive explosion! Oh my god, Bol's burst damage is huge. Cookie goes down. I guess that's why we see Techies banned out so much. And now things look really dire for the Dire. Eeyore trying to make it happen. Has a BKB charge, and that'll let him finish off the Lifestealer. That's a pretty... Oh, sorry, finish off the Techie, sorry, who immediately buys back. But unfortunately, it's not much more than that. The mana is proving such a constraint, and this is what happens when you're forced into this more conservative backup item set on the Storm Spirit. He just can't sustain his damage with an Aghanims and a BKB alone. He has to constantly walk back to the fountain, even fighting in his own base. He cannot stick around long enough to make that fight decisive. Instead, they're forced to buy back on 3 or 4 heroes. I think it was 4 heroes there over the course of that whole fight. Everyone except the Storm expending their buyback. And they don't really get that much for it. Yes, they kill the lifestealer first, but for that hefty price, it's still not justified. 18,000 gold lead now. There were 2 buybacks on the Radiant side, but it was supports of RMIT Black buying back. More BKB charges used, more buybacks on cooldown. You can see here the win graph only goes up, the gold graph only goes up. We're at 97% predicted probability for an RMIT Black victory in game 1, and boy are they playing like it. You can see even now the Puck not going for the upgraded Blink Dagger immediately, has the fancy Dagon Cube, but made sure to get the Ethereal Blade first, so life even more difficult now. They've been relying on a quick chain of disables into a burst of auto attacks out of Eeyore and Cookie to bring down targets, but AUE are going to have a harder and harder time. We now have, what, a 2 F-Blade count on this team. Wouldn't be shocked if they sent back Wong Saroon for 1, but we're probably going to see the end of the game, in all honesty, before Wong Saroon is able to get any more items, and a 4-staff at least gives you a chance of finishing something in time. As Bol, now we're back to a more suffocating posture out of the Radiant. I don't know if they're going to wait on a whole other Roshan. It would be several minutes at least, but they can, if they want. There's still room to scale for them. Lifestealer is building a Nullifier. Just really impressive gameplay out of Kofa. Hasn't really felt the need for a heavy defensive item. Just been using that armlet and using the strength of his own team, obviously. Using his Rages and Infest. Just all of the hero's tools and knowing his own strength, but also his team's strength. And using that to inform his item decisions. And I think only by going this aggressive an item build and this controlling an item build have his team been able to be so successful, even after some pretty stern resistance out of AUE. This has been a great game 1, bodes very well for game 2. I definitely wouldn't write off either side, regardless of what result we eventually see here in game 1. Especially after, we'll probably go to a short break after this game, give both captains some time to think over their draft and talk to their team, because there's a lot to talk about. I've been talking about this game for 40 minutes now already. And maybe, just maybe, we can flip that result in game 2, or at least pick up on whatever went wrong in the draft. I think maybe these laning supports, I don't know whether Terra and Kowalski play these supports all the time, or whether there was some specific interaction that hasn't worked out, or maybe has worked out just a little bit more subtly than we expected, but it feels as though these laning supports probably were a little bit too soft or a little bit too limited in what they can provide around the map. You weren't able to win your lanes hard enough to get stacks up in the jungle for these heroes to recover with. You weren't able to rotate enough in the early game to help tip a particular lane of your choice, maybe towards your Storm Spirit to help Eeyore start balling earlier instead of having to sort of try and catch up from this very slow start. And you certainly weren't able to secure the lanes you're actually in. So to me, that's a bust for the most important time of the game for your supports. And I'm sure they can do better. The individual play from these players certainly has been of a caliber where they can win some games on AUE. But this game 1, unfortunately, you can't always just outplay your way to wins in games of Dota. And as hard as it is to lose on paper, the scales are heavily, heavily weighed against them now. 23,000 gold lead and counting. 52 kills to 34. Undying about to complete his push stick, his 4-staff. Puck going for a strength blink dagger, an overwhelming blink to try and finish off his opponents suitably enough, but they're making a last sally out of the base. They're not waiting around to be overwhelmed, and that gets scanned out. They don't even break the smoke. The Radiant heroes just kind of sniff it out. I mean, obviously when creeps are hitting your base, it's very easy to tell when your opponent has left the area, and this initial smoke gank, they kind of just needed to run into a hero in the first couple of neutral camps or on the steps of the high ground. As soon as they don't, they get scanned out. Great map awareness. RMIT Black was so ready for that. Fish, as the captain or whoever else is making these calls, has had really excellent command of their team, and they just completely avoid that smoke gank. Ultimately, the Dire just give up in defeat. They take their own outpost, but that is small cookies at this point. And Cookie, unfortunately, is starting to feel rather small. Hasn't even quite managed to finish up his Abyssal Blade yet, holding onto his buyback. Does he actually have buyback available? No. Just holding on to buyback money in the hope that in 3 minutes' time, the game's still going and he'll be able to use it. That's the kind of situation we're in right now. Even though that Abyssal Blade, I'm sure Cookie is longing for that, would allow him to maybe make a play on the puck, something really pivotal like that. But as it is, only the Radiant have buybacks at this point. Even the Storms is on cooldown as well, so Eeyore's able to pick up a Witchbane. That's probably going to go into the Ursa, I'd imagine. for a little bit of extra damage, and finally picks up another item. The Kyrie Insane's first mana regeneration item, aside from the Null Talismans, that we've seen on the Storm. But there's already a fight happening, actually. I was lulled to a false sense of security at the top lane. We've already seen the Arena and the Coil go down, but maybe a bit preemptively. The damage out of these heroes is too much. The BKBs are still there for the Dire. I think they overestimated their capacity to fight, and when you can't take full advantage of the Dream Coil and the Arena overlapping, things can go wrong. Kova, of course, is still hanging around, as is Enola, but he is not strong enough. He doesn't have the defensive items. He doesn't have a heart. He doesn't have anything like that to really stay alive as a lifestealer. Often, you're used to seeing lifestealer be a tankier hero, but that's when he has, Sanj and Yasha. That's when he has a heart or a cuirass. Maybe even a BKB. Now they're going to look for a Enola on the puck. Luckily, that Lincoln Sphere gets him the time to phase shift and then blink away and then orb away. So he's going to be able to stay alive. But a brutal overcommitment. I think they saw that the Storm Spirit wasn't there and they took their chance. But I think that you need to spread out the Dream Coil in the Arena a bit more. It's obviously a nice combo, potentially, of just nukes, but... And even this Orchid on the Mars seems a little bit odd to me. Maybe getting a little bit ahead of themselves as an item that's more useful after your opponent has used BKB in this situation when all of your core targets basically have a magic immunity button. And they just didn't even get there in the fight. Didn't even come close. They were wiped out by, I imagine, a Fury Swipe's cleaving overpower. So yeah, pity we missed the start of that fight, but I just fully didn't expect them to commit like that. They with this much map control, they feel like they still have a little bit more room to scale, at least on most of their heroes, and they didn't need to force anything. But I guess when you're ahead, it's pretty reasonable to feel as though most situations favor you. That one, though, did not work out. Now the Dire have good vision control over their own jungle. They've gotten a healthy injection of gold, of course, from all those kills. They've gotten an Aegis onto Cookie. This is important stuff. That's a huge kill to give up. I'm just trying to see who else. I think the Sand King got given the Ags there off of the Roshan. So now we've gotten the massive Burrow Strike. That's going to be tremendous when we can see how important these Burrow Strike turnarounds are to any given fight. Storm Spirit, I imagine, picking up the Overload Shard. So he's got that old Electric Rave ability for Storm Spirit to boost his own auto attack damage. Those E-Blades are going to be extra important coming out of Bowl and Enola. And now... RMIT Black, they were playing so carefully and really seeing some dividends for it, but after losing a significant chunk of their lead and certainly the momentum they had, now they're going to have to consider, right? They have a lot of nuke damage, but these BKBs are proving quite a difficult obstacle, even now as the durations start to run down to minimum, I think across all of them. Everyone's down to 6 seconds. It's still 6 seconds. That's plenty of time for a puck and this large Storm Spirit to kill you. Fish, he's so alone right now. Okay, he does have Kova inside, but that's very ambitious to assume you're just going to be able to go on a target. They're trying to maybe force something out, but they force a full engagement. Okay, Enola this time is able to land a good BKB piercing ultimate, does force things out, but ultimately they just walk it off. Eeyore is able to bust out of that coil, and now they're able to only... isolate one target. The Storm might die here. No, he TP's out as well. Fish brought back for this, and this team fight still looks bad. The Mars re-arrives at the fight. I think it's his second buyback of the game. But okay, this time, because Enola and Kofa were not focused down by the enemy, those BKBs kept the Dire alive, but they crucially were not dealing damage to the key targets. Meanwhile, though, the Storm, he gets back in the game from the fountain, balling into the fight. Kofa gets E-Blade, but it's not a save. He's brought down by, I think, the Cleaves? It's hard to tell, but he dies is the important part. Cookie also dies. No Aegis this time. And now the Storm, he runs out of BKB and he gets Orchided. I'm sorry, Fish. It's a genius item pickup. I think Eeyore is out of mana anyway, but they're able to kill the Storm as a result. And now Terra is heavily isolated, but the Storm buys back. The Ursa buys back. We're not done at all. Eeyore's back. Okay, Eeyore's back out. As I say, Eeyore's back in. Eeyore immediately leaves again. He's just trying to mop up some creeps. And wow, what a crazy engagement. The Witchbane with this extra attack speed on the Storm Spirit and the mana burn, along with that Electric Rave, has suddenly jumped up Eeyore's damage output, something crazy. And of course, that Ursa really finding some great overpowers. They just don't have the damage on the side of the Radiant, even with this aggressive Lifestealer build, to bring down these heroes quick enough. And their damage is fearsome. Look at this crackback though. The puck dies. 10 godlike streak brought down, and Enola forced to buy back. That's how much damage Cookie can output. But ultimately, he is not the only one with control. He stuns the Lifestealer and still gets finished off. Enola chips away at him with some auto attacks. That buyback, it's ultimately just brute economic forces. I think almost every hero buys back there, and even with the buybacks off cooldown for that lengthy exchange. AUE don't quite have enough in the tank. It was a really valiant last stand, super competitive game of Dota, but ultimately those long stretches where the whole map is just being controlled by RMIT Black, their overall great itemization, the solid gameplay that their draft allows has given them this win, as Eeyore kind of just makes a valiant last stand. Brave stuff, gives up his life, and that'll be a clean win, 64-42. RMIT Black secure game 1, must be a morale booster for them, but AUE definitely not without merit in that performance. I'm excited to see game 2. Will it be a similar draft and both teams just running it back? Because you could almost justify it. They both did quite well. So you don't imagine that either team necessarily has to change anything, but I would like to see a change because these players are hugely exciting right now, and I want to see what they do on a different set of heroes. Always more great Dota coming out of the AEL Uni League. Of course, we will take a slight break for me and the players to get a moment of rest and a pause, but we will return with game 2 of this series right after this. We're back from break here. Game 2 coming up between RMIT Black and the AUE, Adelaide University Esports COME squad. COME, as opposed to 5 Adelaide. And they certainly, now I know them from 5 Adelaide. Before this, they were just another Dota team to me, but that was a great game one. They did ultimately go down, overcome by the powerful life stealer play of Kofa and the combo of Fish and Bowl in the top lane on the Mars and Techies. That's a great debut for Techies, at least on my cast here in the AEL Uni League. Really exciting to see the hero realize its potential post-rework. So now we'll see, will it be banned out in game 2? I imagine probably, but maybe we see the Mars targeted, or even the Puck, because Enola, wow. What a dominating performance out of the mid lane. Just like we were discussing, the influence that a single core player can have is massive. So, as we're waiting for the players to launch into game 2 here, should be up very shortly with the draft. We're going to have so much more texture to the draft analysis now that we've seen what both these teams have to offer tonight, and those teams as well have had a couple of minutes to talk amongst themselves and reconsider. Do they have a secondary strat? Do they try and go with some counter picks? Do they even do a position swap? We've seen some of the teams really pivot around the roles between their different players, even between game 1 and 2 of the same series. But unknown as of yet how things are going to change here with game 2 of the series. Just looking back over these graphs here, you can see things really went wrong quite early on, but I just want to look at I'm always interested to see the player net worths of the different cores here. You see Kofa and Cookie, they were even maybe right in the first creep wave, but the offlane got way worse for the Ursa than it did for the lifesteal. And I think I have to credit a lot of that to the play of Wong Saroon on the Undying, right? Maybe not contributing as not showing up on the net worth as much. It's harder to quantify, but this Undying play was really, really solid throughout the game. Gave off surprisingly few deaths and was able to secure the kind of farm that just carries you to a victory. The Ursa never was within reaching distance of the lifestealer carry, and that's after building up a Battle Fury. So we're just having a little bit of an issue with the lobby here, so we're going to pivot. But, don't worry, we'll be in the game in minutes, right? All the players are here, and as soon as we have things set up, we'll be launching into game 2. But yeah, as I was saying, the support play out of Saroon was fantastic. It's not to flame the support play out of Terror on the Abaddon, but I do think this Abaddon pick proved to be a weakness in the draft. I think Kowalski on the Vengeful, neither support really had much of a chance to stand out. They were getting hunted the whole game by these explosive initiations from Enola and Fish, but I feel as though whatever they plan to do with the Abaddon, it wasn't enough to keep Cookie and Eeyore safe. I think the Abaddon's casting range just ended up being too short, too slow to get an item like a Blink or an Aether Lens to help make sure you actually can bail out a hero who's caught in a Dream Coil or an arena before they explode. And maybe by going for a more dynamic support in the laning phase, we'll see UOA come able to avoid falling behind at the outset, because I feel like after this early laning phase, the quality of play between the two teams was quite even, and we even saw the fights go quite evenly, back and forth, but there was just always this gold lead, and we've seen now that RMIT Black are a team who used the map well enough, they're just not going to concede that net worth advantage too easily. So hopefully we can see UOA redress that slight draft disadvantage, if indeed that's what it is. Maybe they can secure a better mid matchup for Eeyore. Obviously played really well from behind as the Storm Spirit, but unfortunately wasn't able to turn it around fully. I think you can just see here, like, Eeyore picking up a Storm Spirit BKB at 20 minutes with no other real items. And in that same time, the Puck had, the same amount really of stats, but Witchblade, Blink Dagger, and bots. The Lifestealer had completed a Desolator after his armlet. The Techies had a Shard. The Mars had Blink Yules. That was one of the players that you were trying to give gold to, right? We saw the Cookie Ursa allowing the Storm Spirit to take kills or throwing himself into danger to set up a kill for the Storm Spirit. If you can't get that hero going, if you can't get that kind of momentum, it's going to be a very difficult fight, and they dragged it to nearly 50 minutes, but they never really got close to getting stuck in to the enemy base. And we might need to go to another short break. It looks like we're having some more lobby issues. Not certain, but Dota's full of surprises, everybody. So this will be a very, very momentary break, literally 2 minutes or less, and I will come back right away as soon as the draft starts. But just to save your ears a couple more minutes of my talking, we will rejoin you after these technical issues. And here we are, back in the draft. UOA come against RMIT Black Game 2. Thanks for that quick pause. Some sort of lobby difficulty in Dota 2, but now we're back to what the players do best, which is not starting lobbies, but indeed playing Dota 2 and drafting it. We saw some pretty solid drafts out of Game 1, right? I was really having to kind of get in under the magnifying glass to see any potential things that teams might want to change in Game 1. Obviously, UOA would rather change the final result, but they'll have the chance here, at least in the run back in Game 2, and they do first ban the techies. So there's one point that we might have seen coming. You know, techies has been banned out for most games that we've seen here on the feature stream for Season 1 tonight, and this time is no exception, right? We let it through once, we saw what it can offer in those early game team fights in particular. The amount of damage and burst and control that comes out of this hero is quite formidable, and even just having the mobility that it does on the new blast off is quite potent, right? People just, maybe it's a getting used to it kind of thing, and at some point we'll see this hero be a more safe hero to allow through the pool. But UOA clearly just weren't quite sure how to account for the techies' contribution, and they'll ban that out along with the similar Earth Spirit. Just try and remove these dynamic early game supports from the RMIT roster. And RMIT, in turn, they had the Undying last game, but they weren't that satisfied by it. They're going to ban it out. It did fall off a little bit towards the end game, or at least it was not able to keep the enemy around the tombstone or have the tombstone add up as much as you'd normally like it to. They ban out the Timbersaw as well. That's what they took away in Game 1. So now we're going to see these pivotal first picks. UOA, they had the opportunity to pick first this time. I believe they were second pick the previous game. I can't recall precisely, but having the first pick of the draft, obviously, it allows you to secure your first hero, but I feel like a lot of teams have been prioritizing second pick, although Death Prophet's still in the pool. So, you know, normally the dilemma of getting first pick is that you can't secure, like, a key laning duo, and even if you try to let one of those duos through the pool that's so important in the current patch, your opponent could just deny pick them away from you. So we go with something even safer and more flexible than the Crobulus, than the DP. It's Ogre Magi out of UOA. Always a strong hero, especially in a meta where the early game is so important. Opens up your pool of potential carries a lot more. Does even allow you to play a possible 4 Protect 1 draft, even though those are really not in favor in recent times in Dota. I feel like Dota has just moved to a slightly more nuanced place, but you can get close. Certainly you can beef up some of the carries that are more slow to come online. I always think of carries like Faceless Void that need a bunch of items to farm effectively, and then items to start coming to fights. And Ogre Magi can let you cut some corners with that and maybe make your team tempo a little bit more flexible. But RMIT, they strike back. They get to pick the 1-2 value pack of heroes here. If not a laning duo, then a powerful combination, and they lead with Tiny, and that's certainly a lot of power. What will be the follow-up, though? We can assume this is a core, but it's not 100%. Support Tiny, not completely beyond the bounds of possibility, and Death Prophet also snatched up. So this could be the safe lane 1 and 5 duo. This could be an off lane or a mid and a carry. This could be off lane and mid. Who can possibly say? It could be 2 supports. I expect this to probably provisionally be the safe lane, but you might even see the Death Prophet move around to match up against the Ogre one-on-one, and we see Necrophos, a great choice out of UOA. When your opponent brings burst damage, and heroes that are themselves quite vulnerable to being bursted, right? Tiny and Death Prophet, not always heroes that have... Well, it's not that they don't build defensive items, but they do have to go in, right? And Tiny is not like an inherently... He doesn't have an inherent survival ability anymore. He certainly doesn't have a survival ability against magic nukes, such as Necrophos brings to the table. And DP obviously, you know, needs to be bursted down wherever possible, especially if it's in a core role. The power of Exorcism on this patch is just off the charts. So great counter, and a hero that we seem to be very effective in the Uni League Season 1 so far here in 2022 for UOA. They are here to turn this around. They want to split this series 1-1. It is a best of 2, of course, if you're relatively new to the stream, so there will not be a deciding Game 3, even if UOA bite back and even things up. But it will be a moral victory for them, and it will be worth points. So obviously everything to play for here in Game 2. RMIT Black, of course, they're looking to seal up the series, get that crucial ladder placement for the finals. Death Prophet is a great way to start that out. But they won't have the advantage of their puck. UOA denying Enola his hero from Game 1. Now, maybe Enola's like, it's alright, I already have my Death Prophet, or I already have my Tiny, but these heroes haven't been most prominent in the mid lane, at least on current patch. So, presumably, Enola's pick is going to have to wait, and they're not going to have that nice team fighting combo of the Dream Coil to hold heroes in place while the Death Prophet Exorcism does its nasty work. Now, aside from UOA's Necrophos and Naga, obviously not the best combo of heroes between core and support. Presumably, they will be looking for a physical damage carry to siege down towers, and you have to start to think, what physical damage carry is best against Death Prophet and Tiny? I almost wonder if Drow can sneak through this middle banning phase, and whether or not you would be brave enough to pick her before the final pick of the game. You know that no matter what you pick, ultimately RMIT Black are going to have at least one pick to counter this time. So I feel like UOA could just roll the dice here and pick up a Drow Ranger. I believe it was banned last game, so both these teams, that it is on their mind. And in that hero's immense physical damage output, the control of the Gust, I feel like these are great options to have against a Death Prophet, whether or not it's a support trying to ruin your lane or a core trying to ruin your towers after the laning phase. And of course, Tiny, all right, that's some burst you can put onto a Drow, but a Drow can build a BKB, Drow can build a Blink without falling off in physical damage output. And I think that, you know, Tiny does what Tiny does to pretty much every hero in the game. You have to be able to rely on positioning. And Drow is the kind of hero that can arrive at fights late after your Necrophos has kind of let himself be dangled out there as bait, or let himself be initiated on to try and turn things around. It's a really nice duo to have, and a great combo with the Ogre. Obviously, there's a lot of other options. That's just one. Could also go for something like a Troll Warlord, another hero that got banned out in the last phase of Game 1. You know, obviously able to survive through burst as long as you can reach that ultimate. And, you know, certainly able to bring down Tiny or Death Prophet in a 1v1 situation. But RMIT Black, they're not immediately gunning for the safe lane carries. They took away the Medusa, which is a very attractive option, obviously, at all times with the Necrophos and the Ogre. Just the amount of hit points and slow sieging and gradual sustained damage that can come out of a lineup over that. We've seen that roll multiple games here in Season 1 of the AEL Uni League. But after banning Dusa, they go after Viper and Batrider. So they do not want single target control coming out. It seems like they definitely are playing this as a safe lane Tiny, because these are heroes that Tiny is definitely afraid of, right? You don't want to blink in to try and blow someone up, start casting Avalanche and get lassoed, or you don't want to get Viper struck really ever at any point in the game. Suddenly just reduced to crawling around like the slowest boulder man to ever live. Sand King, a great pull-up to the Tiny and the DP. You can force the fights to happen. You have a hero that can match Tiny's initiation range or even beat it. You have a hero that can counter-initiate if the enemy team stack up to kill DP or Tiny. We saw how effective the Sand King was in the hands of VS1 last game for UOA in terms of turning around engagements that looked quite bad, even when the team was behind and the Sand King had kind of a slow start. They did pay it some attention. But Sand King worked its way into the game nevertheless, and so UOA, they have to bite back. They bring up okay, Gyrocopter and Grimstroke. I have seen games with Gyrocopter support. I don't expect either of these teams to be favoring it right now. So Gyrocopter, probably the carry. It's a great choice in a game where you feel like your carry needs a BKB. You probably don't want the carry to be a melee hero, because then you're not really using that BKB optimally, and you're likely to be kited hard by Death Prophet, not to mention the laning phase. So instead we have a hero that puts out a lot of burst in the lane against any of these heroes, whichever one it is, probably Sand King at this point. You've got Grimstroke as a way to potentially discourage all-ins, although I would hope that it's probably going to be a Grimstroke. Maybe it's not a Grimstroke Necro lane. Maybe you can't afford it. But they definitely have great laning options either way. And Grimstroke's Silence is going to be very potent for controlling the Sand King potentially later on. And also soft targeting some mid picks that might come later. Very hard to play a hero like Void Spirit or Ember Spirit into a Grimstroke. Pretty hard to play, you know, some other mid laners as well that like to, if you're trying to play a slow sieging lineup and you're going to go back and pick something like a Dragon Knight, that might be overkill for towers, but Grimstroke with his super long range and surprisingly high damage combos you can have as a support is great for holding those early game towers, especially with a team like this behind him. And Gyrocopter just going to be going that build that we've seen so many times recently, most likely Aghanims into a Crystallis, into, or maybe some sort of other farming item, and a BKB whenever they're ready to fight. But RMIT, they get something we haven't seen as much of lately, and that's the Dazzle, presumably the Dazzle support. So possibly even a Dazzle DP support duo, which is a little unusual, but given the stuns we already see out of Tiny and Sand King, if those are their cores, it makes more sense. And Dazzle, I mean, who doesn't love Dazzle? He's an exciting, fun hero. He's got a great color scheme. His rework is super cool. And maybe, if we're lucky, this will prove to be some sort of innovative core Dazzle strat that looks to really utilize the new traits that the hero gained in his somewhat recent reworking. But No, in likelihood, we have everything but our mid laner for RMIT, and they're going to start banning possible bad matchups. So what can be divine? Oh no, okay. UOA kind of think that they're going for a support. We see Rubik and Silence banned. Obviously, those are maybe flexible enough to be cause, but ideally those are supports. So both teams kind of dancing around each other in the draft right now. Obviously, a lot of options are still open. You don't have to pre-decide where heroes like Death Prophet and Sand King and Tiny are playing. But I'm sure RMIT Black have certain players who are right now on the voice comms angling for heroes that they favor. Not everyone plays every hero as well or as enthusiastically. And wow, UOA, they bust out the last pick, Enigma. The response from RMIT is Sniper. Very interesting. So that's the Silencer and Rubik ban. I should have seen it coming, but it's just been so long since I saw Enigma picked up regularly. My brain didn't immediately twig that you ban out the two big black hole counters. Of course, Vengeful Spirit's another one. I can't remember if that hero is in the draft or not, but I don't think RMIT were in the market for a last pick Venge, and UOA knew it. So Vezwan, after playing maybe the best on his team in game one with that Enigma, with that Sand King, is going to bounce back with an even more powerful game-turning ultimate here in game two. So huge stuff from UOA. I don't know that I'd 100% say their draft is better or has a huge advantage, but I do think they've given themselves a lot of power, a relatively easy draft to play. Not the easiest I've ever seen, but they have so many powerful tools to swing a fight. No matter who gets initiated on, as long as they don't immediately die, as long as some of the heroes are nearby, and they did have great coordination in that sense in game one, they can respond. Blink Black Hole, the Necrophos can come in and scythe somebody, provide a huge burst of healing, even the Sand King with his combo. So lots, sorry, not the Sand King, the Gyrocopter combo, lots and lots to operate from in the team fights compared to game one. For UOA, they're going to hope to try and get a better result with it. But before we get too deep into the game, before we start delving into who's playing who and the relative items and skills, it's time to shout out our sponsors again, I guess briefly. In case you missed it in game one, the AE Uni League is sponsored. AEL Uni League is sponsored by Predator as our gaming PC partner, AOC Monitors as our monitor partner, and Rig as our headset partner. I can tell you more about that hardware later on after this series concludes. It's part of our wrap-up. But for now, Enola, okay, successful Mission Impossible ward placement, smokes up for it, gets that obs down early. Now, last game, their obs wasn't dewarded. We'll see whether they win that warding minigame this time. But you can see here, the Radiant, they're hanging out, waiting for some sort of mid-ward, but he got out to the mid lane so fast. Actually, I missed the most important part of that. Enola on the Sand King. Is this going to be a Sand King mid? They might be planning on flexing their mid laner based on the matchups they see, because obviously Sand King can be a very powerful mid laner if you feel like it's a lane you can trade well in. If it's something like Eeyore on the Necrophos, and it is Eeyore on the Necrophos, I think they've read this right. I feel like the Sand King has a very strong lane, because the Necro has to walk up pretty close to creeps. He doesn't have great all-in potential to force the Sand King away or punish him for playing with the Caustic and Sandstorm. And that's a lot of damage to try and compete with, even for a hero with the kind of sustainability that Necrophos has. So, actually, they are sending Eeyore top. Okay, so it's going to be VES mid-Enigma? Mid-Enigma in a mid-Sand King. This is quite a matchup, although I can almost think back to the last time I saw... I almost don't believe myself. This could just be faulty brain, confirmation bias stuff, but I feel like the last time I saw Sand King mid, I made a similar exclamation, and it was actually that time also against Enigma. Just the weirdest lane, but, you know, we'll see how this goes, right? I guess lots of extra creeps for the Sand King to contend with, but he does have the AOE clear that some heroes might lack in the early game, and now we're seeing another interesting lane at the top. Kofa getting really aggressive, was on the lifestealer last game, and even though he's on a much more fragile hero this time in the Dwarven Sniper, not afraid to try and leverage everything he offers at level 1, but he doesn't have that Shrapnel. If there was Shrapnel level 1, I think you easily win that exchange, but with the headshot, not saying it's a wrong skill, forced to back off a little bit as Eeyore asserts himself. And we can see, actually, yeah, Enola already not afraid to come right up to the creep wave, and Vezwan forced to just carefully micro around those Enigma Eidolons, try and make sure that there's no opportunity for Enola to use that Caustic Finale already skilled up to too much effect. Meanwhile, the bottom lane, Bowl is so in under the tower. On the support Tiny, it is going to be Fish and Bowl playing the support Tiny offlane DP duo. I think it's one of the few combos I didn't specifically call out, but it just reminds us what a flexible opening those two heroes are. Now, granted, you have to imagine there's a reason why Support Tiny is no longer as popular as it once was, because people have been very happy to play that hero support basically forever, and yet it has been pretty cemented as a core for most of the last couple of patches. Fallen off a little bit and gone back to being a bit more flexible just on this current meta, but, you know, there are reasons why it's no longer as strong as it once was. Subtle changes, both because the core form is stronger, but also because the support form isn't everything it once was. Even so, it has that X factor that a hero like Earthshaker or Enigma does, and I'll be excited to see what Bol's able to do after a big Techies performance in Game 1. Right now, though, in the lane, it seems like most of what Bol can do is hopefully control the neutral creeps and prevent Cookie from all-inning onto Fish. And Cookie walking forward pretty fearlessly, even though Grimstroke is quite far away in the trees. And they're going to try and turn around onto this Tiny, who was setting up for a play. He tosses the Rocket Barrage and Gyrocopter backwards, but unfortunately, by slipping around and separating himself from Fish, Bol may have exposed himself to danger. Tiny, though, with boots on, is very quick, and Gyrocopter is not quite as fast. The movement speed bonus from Inkstall is not enough, and he's able to escape from a really slippery situation. So, good stuff by the Tiny. Maybe he was hoping to get the kill. Maybe he was just trying to bait out those spells, and he never really expected to do any better than he did. But regardless, neither team shy to trade some paint in the laning phase and take some risks. This is always exciting. Speaking of, Eos just hanging in at top right now on the Necrophos. Pressuring the lane, abusing that regen and the Heartstopper Aurora, and wearing down on the health of the opposing laners, although Sniper's doing surprisingly well for a hero that, you know, didn't even skill his best laning skills at the start. He now has 2 points up in the Shrapnel and is kind of just holding it there as an insurance against any dives. But relatively little burst damage coming out of Eor and Kowalski, at least until that Reaper Scythe is available at 6. So there's a little bit of time before they have to fear that, before Saroon has to skill Grave, before Kofa has to really watch his hit points. And Saroon just kind of making sure that he's a screen there to give vision of his opponent, although they're going to just try and commit onto the Dazzle. He has to back off. No Grave available. They know he has heal and touch and no third skill yet. Fish draws first blood on the bottom lane for the Dire, so big win for them before Saroon can die. But actually, Saroon may not even die here. Kowalski tries to turn around, but that's a mistake. The Dire Creep Wave comes in just in time to heal bomb him. Saroon knew that was coming. It's been a great bait, and unfortunately, with the power of that Shrapnel available, oh, it's the exact Necrophos MO, right? You want to bait people into going on you and then turning on them, but that time, they were not the ones with the turn potential, especially with that Creep Wave coming in, and perfect bait, perfect use of resources by the Dire lane. And so this relatively unconventional lane of Sniper and Dazzle is really holding its ground here. The lack of a powerful burst combo out of these two heroes, it means that just the damage over time adds up from the poison touch, from the Sniper Shrapnel. Dazzle can get all his spells off, and it's proving to be a bit too much. So great drafting to set up great lanes so far out of RMIT Black, and this is starting to look even better for them than Game 1 did early on, as they attain a 2k plus gold lead at the 5-minute mark. Okay, and now we've got the mid lane. Of course, this is one thing that is going better than last time for the Radiant. VES1 was struggling a little bit previously compared to Enola's Puck. Just had a couple of solo deaths on the Storm going for runes or in the neutrals, and from there found it really hard to catch up. Had to go for a much more conservative item build that ultimately limited how much his great individual play was worth later on. And this time, VES on the Enigma, sorry, it was Eeyore on the Storm Spirit, but the mid laner for AUE last time had a much harder lane that it looks like this Enigma is having. Obviously, you'd expect it to be a little bit of a farm fest, especially without support rotations between these two, and Enola not doing too poorly in the farm mistakes as we see him take a stacked easy camp very immediately with those Sand King nukes. But good to see Enigma getting those items up, and it'll be interesting to see how you plan to scale as VES1, how aggressively you rotate to utilize that Black Hole cooldown, which is now online. You could have rotated the bottom lane, but unfortunately, this almost fell apart too quickly as Terra goes down way outside the tier 1. Cookie at least is able to make it back to tower, but again, that's something which hasn't changed from game 1, is the pressure being applied to AUE's safe lane. Team Cum are not, unfortunately, bringing their best safe lanes to the party here. This Grimstroke Gyrocopter combo isn't holding up under the pressure as Death Prophet levels up and really starts to leverage the power of Spirit Siphon. And of course, again, you have that X factor of Tiny with the tossback. Just really a great way to stop Gyrocopter's Rocket Barrage from tipping the scales in this lane. We've already seen more than once. And even Eeyore now
You wouldn't expect the Necrophos to be under such harassment, but his support has wandered across into the jungle to look for stacks, making sure that the flak cannon, that the shrapnel isn't going to be used to catch up on any stacks, so that the Sand King can't accelerate too hard out of mid, and as a result... Sorry, it's Kowalski returns to lane. It's actually Kofa who's now without his support. But, oh, Cookie goes down the bottom lane. It's a dive and an exorcism. I wasn't ready for that yet, but surely you could... Again, the Enigma's not rotating. It looks like VES1 is playing a very selfish game, but they are not even respecting the Enigma teleport. They know he has 6 in Black Hole, and we see Fish and Bowl incredibly low hit points under the tower. They just... I mean, maybe these teams play each other in scrims, and maybe they've seen this mid-Enigma strat before. They understand that it's a bit of a greedier hero, and that he's not going to commit to teleport, even to defend a safe lane tier 1. I mean, that's just the power of Exorcism, I suppose. It's just... They won't even attempt to challenge it. Even with those heroes being that low on a tower, even giving up your Gyrocopter and his safe lane tower, as punishing as all that is, VS1 just has to hit the creeps in the mid lane, prevent Enola from pressuring at least that tower, and hopefully once you've got, I'm not sure, Blink into BKB, just a BKB up. I have no idea what the item ordering will be, but it's going to be important for VS because he looks like being the hero to lead his team in these mid-game fights, although he walks forward. Massive magic damage coming out of the Sand King. He deploys the Black Hole, but the Sand King is still in the Sandstorm. It's not channeled. You can't pull him out of it with that Black Hole, and unfortunately the Sandstorm damage actually adds up much faster than the Black Hole damage does. Killing off the Enigma, wasting that first Black Hole cooldown, it really... I hate to be negative, but it couldn't have gone any worse for them on AUE. That was their little ray of sunshine so far in this game, has been this mid-Enigma's progress, and that unfortunately is a real flop for the debut of its big spell. Now on the top lane, we see Kofa not quite picking up a kill. Eeyore able to get one more heal off, survives the headshot, the assassinate, and even the follow-up from Long Saroon on that support. But there is full court press of you know, aggressive dire play across the map, all 3 lanes. Fish just hanging out here, has a 2-level gap on the Gyrocopter, who isn't even maxing Flak Cannon right now. He's actually tried to max Rocket Barrage in a lane against the Tiny. Maybe that's why this lane hasn't gone so well. And VES1, just in time, I cut back to see the Tiny, who has finally taken the opportunity to rotate, gets a kill on the mid laner. So just like in game 1, the rotations seem much more dynamic out of RMIT Black, and that is adding up quickly as we start to see the end of the laning phase. Bowl just sweeps through to top lane. He's not done. Onto a killing spree as he finishes off Terra with the nuke combo. Enola's here as well. Out of the mid lane, a level 9 Sand King. What on earth are you going to do about this? There's no level 6 yet for Eeyore, but there is level 6 for Cookie. He throws down a pretty smart cooldown on the tower. Suddenly the Dire, who are already having second thoughts, they can't dive. The Sand King's completely isolated. He spent all his mana, and that proved to be a little bit too far. A little bit too much for Enola to bite off. He can't chew it down, and it ends up choking him. You hate to see a choke play like that out of such a good player, but now it might cost his team even more as Fish walked down by Kowalski. Kowalski immediately has to walk out of there as the ghosts try to retaliate, and actually that's going to completely discourage the kill as the ghosts are recalled. I'm not sure whether the exorcism I assume it naturally ended because that was the mid tower, by the way, but okay, and now Bowl back in again. This Enigma is going to die his 3rd death in as many minutes. Brutal stuff. He's nowhere near a blink tag yet, just rocking mana boots and some null tallies, and he's just not allowed to have space on the map right now. Just not able to respect the ganking power as Bowl just kind of walks up on him. I mean, the laning phase is over. Surely by this... The first death was a solo kill, but after that first gank, you have to understand they are looking to kill you, right? This is what happened to VES1 on the Sand King even in game 1. He was able to recover admirably, but they paid a lot of attention to his item timing and tried to slow down his blink, ganking with the puck. I'm sure that he should be aware of their same priorities in this game, but of course, he's not the only one on his team who needs to watch out. Enola thought about using the Epicenter there to kill Cookie and then realizes he doesn't need it. Bowl's like, no dude, I got this. Check out my nuke combo, and that's the Gyrocopter dead. So 14-1. What was momentarily something of an even game is turning out to be like a massive stomp all of a sudden, or starting to tilt towards that. It's obviously still recoverable, but 7,000 gold is a lot, especially at 11 minutes in the game, and just the level disadvantage on all these heroes. We're starting to reach the point where not only are like the Dire team going to have their level 2 ultimates well in advance of the Radiant, they're going to be a full item ahead at that same timing, and Terra goes down again, just trying to get some wards de-warded in his own jungle, deep in his own jungle for 11 minutes, but even that area is not safe. There are 3 Dire heroes right on top of him. And maybe this means that, you know, if AUE can recover, they had pretty good map usage in game 1. I'm sure they're able to identify that, all right, this is the pretty common... They've taken over the enemy jungle, have RMIT Black. They're offering a jungle swap, more or less. In fact, currently they're being pretty greedy, and Kofa is farming his way back through his own jungle, but they're kind of implicitly conceding at least most of their own dire side jungle area. And so at least we see the reaction. Kowalski and Eeyore in VS1, they go top, they bring the Enigma army, and they get aggressive. They're going to get a tower of their own here. They're going to take the enemy safe lane, they're going to open up their own map, and that's important, but unfortunately, the timings are just constantly favoring RMIT Black. The game is running according to their clocks, and Fish's clock is Exorcism cooldown. It's back up right now, and as soon as that bell chimes, as soon as the hour is struck, you see it back in, not on Heroes, on the tier 2 tower bottom lane. He's going to mop that up, tanking the tower as much as he dares do as the creep wave is brought down. It has to be very careful here as Eeyore has arrived from top lane with Reaper's Scythe. Fish just kind of hoping the ghosts can get there, waiting for it to regen him. And actually, this has to be a bait at this point. The team are just sticking around, Fish standing completely still. I think maybe that... It's just so suspicious that someone in Dota stands that still, just AFK. Unless you're trying to convince your opponent you've disconnected, that might tip them off to the fact that it's a bait. But no matter, because Enola wasn't too long in sticking around a bottom lane. He tries to make a play on mid. Bol finds that kill, didn't even need a unit to toss, able to just roll the avalanche out, and that finishes off poor Cookie, who thought he had a window to farm under his own tier 2. It's only 30 minutes, he says. How can you expect me to have any items that could prevent this? He's barely got treads, and yet this is the state of the game he finds himself in. Enola still looking to reveal his Blink Epicenter, but cancels it there. Still has the Epi. Going for travels. This is real great classic ideal items. Able to play super aggressive, having that mobility that is his greatest tool, because right now they're far enough ahead. He doesn't need extra stats. He doesn't need utility like a Yule Scepter or something to help cleanse himself. He just needs to maximize greed while retaining the ability to put the stun and the epicenter where they need to be in the team fight. And there is no answer on the Radiant side for now. AUE do not even have the Blink Dagger up on their mid Enigma. VES1, actually, it's just flying out now. But he paid for those early deaths, right? This is a 13-minute Blink timing. He's well behind his opponent here, and that unfortunately might continue. 1,000 gold gap is pretty significant between these mid laners, and actually, oh my goodness, very deep in is Eeyore and his support. It's actually a bait for VES, but the nukes are so huge, even with the black hole catching two, they're already dead. The Tiny got both spells off before he got locked in. There was no follow-up to the black hole, and the Enigma just dies instantly. This Enigma mid experiment has not looked convincing, and it's not for a lack of black hole being targeted, but it's just not doing enough. And I mean, the last time I saw Enigma mid, it also fell off, but this is just showing that the draft is even better out of the die. RMIT Black are just never going to be as 5. You're not going to be able to hit a one-man, like a one-hero play with the black hole that just turns the game like that. Fish calls it in the chat. Wow. He wants a 20-minute game. Okay, VS challenging up the tempo here. 20 minutes. Those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those up. Fish is trying. Holding the Exorcism cooldown, looks like maybe waiting for level 2, but no, just waiting for creeps on the tower. I mean, this is the kind of game where you can go in the old chat and start calling your shot as to when you're going to end things. They are very ahead on every hero right now. And unfortunately, with two of your cores being Necrophos and Enigma, I just don't know if they have the dynamism to bring this game back from behind. And look at the damage coming out. There has been no time for these heroes to pick up the items that normally make them tanky. The Necro went straight Veil of Discord. I mean, it's some armor. It's a little bit of stats. That does not help against the cavalcade of nukes that just washed over 3 die heroes and erased them from the map before I could even get my mouth open. And, you know, I don't know whether AUE, maybe their mouths are hanging open as well. I'm sure they didn't expect the game to go this badly when they drafted these heroes after game 1 was so close. But RMIT Black, they were feeling their oats. They were feeling themselves after game 1, and they have come in super strong here. Allowed access to the Death Prophet. Fish has gone completely berserk. Top net worth in the game as offlane DP. That's impressive, and shows no signs of slowing down. Neither does Enola, though. Won't be left out. They stun and silence Eeyore. He dies immediately on this Necrophos. These heroes just don't feel like they usually do. This doesn't feel like a DP game. This Enigma doesn't really feel like it's having an Enigma impact. And it's just because this has been such an immediate game. This is 16-minute racks. This is what everyone... told me this patch was going to be like. I haven't seen it realized very often, especially in games between two teams that seemed well matched. But boy, RMIT Black, that sometimes, you know, you can't cover every opening, and you see a weakness in your opponent's line at the start of the chess game. You just walk that queen in there, and when it's checkmate, it's checkmate. And boy, it doesn't look like there's a lot of moves left here for AUE. They are a worm squirming on the hook as their Brax is destroyed in front of Terra's eyes. Eels back up. Death timers, of course, being short, a small mercy when you're getting beaten this badly. But boy, how do they catch up here? Not only are they against sort of a superior carry in this sniper who has built Mom Dragonlance going into a Shadow Blade. Normally, you might imagine that this hero would be vulnerable to the burst damage that we see often out of Necrophos lineups. When EO, it's like, they don't you need 3 or 4 items to make this hero work the way it needs to in this context. You want to have a Blink Dagger. You need to have, like, an E-Blade. You probably want to have a Shadow Blade if you can, to try and sight up your enemy to do the initiation. You want a Kaya. But EO has a Veil and a Shovel. And unfortunately, those are just not going to make you able to find and kill a sniper. And you can see how aggressive Kofa, that was maybe a little bit too aggressive. He even realizes he was pausing as his team. He had one hero in the vicinity who's running away. And as Dwarven Sniper, he pauses to aim assassinate. Now he gets homing missile and called down, but he ran pretty far. The Mom movement speed helps him get all the way back to his team. VS blinks into Black Hole and gets silenced out of the cast animation, and Fish hits him up with the tip. That's the game in a nutshell. He had it. You could... The blood was in his mouth. He could taste it. He could see this is the chance to be the hero. We saw the turnaround plays come out of the ES1 in Game 1 as the Sand King. Huge blink epicenters that were really the first signs of defiance that started to drag that game back from the brink of becoming the stomp that this game has become. But no luck this time. The DP silence was so fast out of Fish. Real captain's game here on the DP. RMIT Black looking 10 times stronger than they even did in Game 1. Real finals Dota here. And Fish is now just kind of... Well, I guess he's earned it. This is a very easy game to talk trash in. Eeyore, that's the way. Shows a little bit of defiance. You don't have to kneel for him. They beat you already. You don't also have to thank him for it. And, okay. I mentioned you don't have to give up, but everyone's AFK. They're going to... I don't know if there's an over-under on when this game ends. I've already missed the 17-minute prediction, so unfortunately VES1 I feel like is already out of the money here. We're playing Dota 2 Price is Right. But the 20-minute call looking pretty good right now. Of course, the 20-minute call, if the enemy doesn't GG out, deny you it. It feels like, you know, Fish is the one in the best position to determine that, and around the 20-minute mark, that's when Exorcism is going to be active again, and unless he runs in the fountain, and is he just... He's trying to pick up a Desolator, it looks like? Or a BKB. Gets the Grave out of the Dazzler was all a bait. I thought that Fish might have been getting a little bit too greedy there, but really, what is too greedy? Actually, I think Fish is trying to turn BKB parts into a Desolator. Anyway, this is all the politics of a game that is over. Looks like a 2-0 victory to RMIT Black in ultimately what appears to be a decisive fashion. I mean, this is really kind of like the ultimate audition for the Season 1 Uni League Finals, right? You win, you show both that you can win a close game that's hard fought and where your opponent has a legitimate shot at coming back. You can rally and steady, extend your draft, itemize well and hang on. And you can kind of completely outlane them and bulldoze the game because you have a Death Prophet. And a Tiny. And, you know, I appreciate the ingenuity in the draft out of AUE. I feel like this is a pretty... You know, sometimes you have to just try the pocket strat, and then you say after this, well, we're retiring them in Enigma. We simply won't pick that again. And so I don't think that this reflects on them as much as it is a feather in the cap of RMIT Black. But on the scoreboard, unfortunately, this result will be reflected like any other. And it is AUE come taking an 0-2 loss here against RMIT Black. Big win. 34-1 after the first game was what, like 60 something kills to 40 something kills. That is a 20-minute shellacking out of RMIT Black. They crush. Come to the show and you will take a seat forcibly. You'll be sat down. And I mean, the graphs for this one are probably not as exciting, unfortunately, after game 1. But luckily, we don't need to buy too much time. You see the dire core is just rocketing up into the sunset. Everyone else here forced to live a very mortal life and suffer a very mortal death at their hands. But, you know, that's all she wrote. You saw the game as much as we did. Now, if you want to see more games, of course, you'll be able to follow AEL, get on their social platforms. You can follow this Twitch stream, obviously, if you're not watching on Twitch, if you're watching on YouTube or something after the fact. The Twitch stream is AEL Uni or AEL Uni 2. Make sure you can follow both of those channels so you're aware when there's multiple games going on or when different esports are firing. But, obviously, we want you to keep tuning into the Dota 2 portion of Uni League, especially, so that you can see more of my fantastic casts, see more of these finals gameplay as it comes up in the coming weeks. But in order for you to do that, there have to be some very special sponsors who make the Uni League possible, and I would like to thank them now before we go off the air. First of all, we have Predator. They are our gaming parts sponsor, gaming PC partner for AEL. You can conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming. Predator put power and precision in your hands and elevate your gaming experience with the quality and performance that is synonymous with their brand. Thanks to Predator for all their support. And of course, thanks to one of our very long-time supporters, AOC Monitors, our monitor display technology partner, offering the best viewing experience for more than 50 years. An exceptional level of quality delivered to millions of loyal customers worldwide. And today, they have expanded that customer base even further because the company offers such a wide selection of stylish monitors for all possible use cases in the home, in the office, or obviously, as we're mostly interested in, for gaming. And, as fellow gamers looking to pick up some hardware, you can't go wrong with Rig. Rig Gaming is what it takes to win. They are our headset partner here at the AEL Uni League, delivering superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. So if you join the Rig team today, you will enhance your gaming experience. You will not regret it. And once you've got all that stuff locked up, all the really important stuff with our sponsors, you can maybe throw me a follow. I am the Wandering Bard. You can follow me at A Wandering Bard on Twitter because the Wandering Bard is too many characters. Hopefully Elon Musk can change that and be one good thing about him buying Twitter. But of course, there is just where I aggregate all of my work, not only for Dota 2, but I also cover fighting games for Couch Warriors. I cover Magic the Gathering as well for different outlets, all sorts of different esports. If you're a multi-game enthusiast like me, you just can't get enough, I humbly request that you join me there and check out my other work. I hope you enjoy it. But, of course, make sure that you also follow AEL first. That is the name of the game here, and we will return with more AEL Dota 2 Uni League action as Season 1 approaches its climax in Week 7 next week. Thanks for watching, everyone. I've been the Wandering Bard. Good night.